The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
January 26, 2023. Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. I have two introductions to make. First, I'd like to welcome
Unmuted.
our friend and a friend of the community for many, many years, Bishop Thomas Scott from the 34th Street Church of God. He's no stranger here. He served as a member of the City Council and the County Commission and served as chairman multiple times, elected by his peers. He has devoted himself to this community and giving back. He has been married to his lovely wife, Marva, for now 41 plus years. And if we could please stand for the invocation and welcome Bishop Scott to the microphone. And then after the Pledge of Allegiance, I have another special guest. So, Bishop, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the councilman, thanks for the invitation to come to be here. It's always an honor to come and ask God's blessings upon you and the work that you're doing for this community, for this city. And so it is my privilege and honor to be here today. So shall we pray? Our Father, we're always reminded of what your word tells us, and that is to acknowledge you in all of our ways, and you will give directions to our path, to our journey. Today we bless you and we thank you for the privilege that is ours, for this new day, a new day of grace, a new day of mercy, a new day of love, and a new day of opportunity in the face of challenges. We thank you for our nation and our country. Thank you for America and for what she stands for. All persons are created equal in your sight. And we thank you today for our elected officials across this nation, those that represent us in Washington, those in Tallahassee, and those here in the City Council today. Thank you for these men and women who have given of themselves. I pray today that you will give them wisdom, you give them knowledge, you give them understanding, you give them patience. And I pray that as they work together, there'll be men and women of civility and men and women of courage and insight. We pray now that you'll bless our great city, bless our mayor, bless that administration, and we pray that this day will be a good day as the City Council go through their agenda. It is in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and my second guest today is a local architect and poet. His name is Matthew Suarez, and besides architecture, he writes poetry that is specifically dedicated to all things Tampa, historical and current. And since it is parade season in Gasparilla, the Gasparilla Parade is this weekend, along with all the other parades that are coming up soon. Matthew wrote a poem to celebrate this occasion. So, Mr. Suarez, if you'd like to come up.
Sure.
Up over here. So the details of the poem, we'll talk about the founders of the parade, other parades, other crews. Very interesting stuff. If you like Tampa history, these poems are right up there.
So thank you, Council, for the invitation, including, of course, Councilman Maniscalco. So here we go. Gasparilla. It sail into Tampa once a year, a pirate invasion that bring more cheer than fear. Hillsborough Bay be where it makes its start. It be from here that a mystic crew play the pirate part. Aboard the Jose Gasparilla, they chart their course. Their annual intent be to seize the city's key by friendly force. Up the Seaton Channel they sail, to the city they will invade. To the Tampa Convention Center they travel to begin their raid. Once ashore from their journey upon the high Tampa Sea, they demand the mayor of Tampa hand over the key. With cannon fire rumbling in the near distance, a troubled mayor surrenders the key without resistance. With key in hand, these mystic pirates prepare to stage their celebration, an occasion marked by one of the largest parades in all the nation. But before they leave their place of landing, they host a victory brunch in the city they now be commanding. Meanwhile, wreaths of colorful feathers and beads be hung on many a door, as people gather for leagues along Tampa's bay shore. Parties be held on porches and yards and along driveways, as grog flows into cups under sun-shining rays. Then the time finally come for this mystic crew to take Tampa by parade. Here they be joined by many other crews to conduct this part of their annual raid. Bayshore and Bay to Bay boulevards be where they all begin this journey, led by the mystic crew that include more than one Tampa doctor and attorney. During this parade that follows the Bayshore that run along Hillsborough Bay, the participating crews put Tampa's history, culture, and spirit on full display. For the people of Tampa, they create a festive environment that is filled with play, as beads and coins be thrown from decorative floats throughout the day. From the ye mystic crew of Gasparilla, Tampa's pirate spirit will forever grow. From the Rough Riders, Tampa's role in the Spanish-American War never lays low. From the crew of Ybor, Tampa celebrates its culturally diverse past. From the crew of Santiago, Tampa's ties to Spain will always last. It be a Tampa tradition that started in 1904. It be a Tampa tradition that belongs to the Bayshore. It be a Tampa tradition created by Dodge and Hardy. It be a Tampa tradition that began on the high Tampa Sea. It be a Tampa tradition that feature a mystic pirate parade and flotilla. It be the Tampa tradition known as Gasparilla. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call?
Carlson. Vieira.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here.
Citro.
Here.
Goods.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
Hurtak. Here. We have physical quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Shelby.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Very briefly, Council, the public comment section is at the end, besides at the beginning, but we'll talk about that later in the agenda. Public comment on the subject of the workshop will be taken at the end of each workshop item, please. And also, Council, I would ask that Council waive the rules to allow the continued use of CMT for this workshop.
We have a motion made by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. All in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed? Thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Shall we go through the agenda at this time? I think there's just a couple clarifications. Ms. Duncan on agenda item number 1 has requested that we move agenda item number 8 to go ahead with and coincide with agenda item number 1. Is there any?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you very much. Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Carlson. All in favor? Any objection? Thank you very much. Councilman Vieira is also agenda item number 7. There is a scrivener's error, and that he would like to have that continued until March 23rd. Is that correct?
If I may, yes, sir.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Is there any objection? Thank you. Motion passes. Does any other council member see any? Councilman Carlson.
Oh, you mentioned it, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, no, that it should be elections in even years as opposed to odd years, just for the clerk, but that's all.
And that's what I was alluding
Yep.
to the scrivener's error.
Well, what was the scrivener's error again? Are you asking the clerk to correct it? I'm just going to be clear for the record.
Replace or exchange odd and even places.
So it should say having the City of Tampa elections in even years as opposed to odd years to be consistent with the general elections. Is that part of your motion?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you catch that, Madam Clerk?
Yes,
You're-
just to switch the two around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes, thank you, and apologies to my colleagues, I sent a memo last night, but I would like to remove, make a motion to remove item number 6.
Second.
When we set this date, I think I didn't realize that we would all be in the middle of campaign season, and I just don't think, because of the politicized environment, I don't think it's a good idea to have this discussion right now. By the time the election will be over, it'll be May 1st, which will be the new council, and so instead of continuing it and putting it on the new council, let the new council decide if they want to bring this back up. So I would just make a motion to remove it from the agenda on this
We
right
have a
now.
motion to remove agenda item number 6 by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Okay, does that complete our agenda?
Yep.
Thank you very much. Then we'll go to a public comment at this time. Is there anyone in council chambers that wishes to speak during public comment at this time? You will have 3 minutes for your comments.
Uhuru, Mentesnot, Tampa, Florida. Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. And we say we as African people should always be thinking about our freedom. We should always try to stay connected to what's our historical mission in life, which is to be a free and self-determining people. What happened last week is part of what happened, what I'm wearing right now. White people really think when they look at us, when they see our skin color, they just think we're stupid automatically. They just think it's something stupid about us based on skin color. So they have easy identifiable markers. They don't have to know anything about your education, about your background, about anything at all, about your wealth, about wheresoever it might be or howsoever it might be. All they have to do is see that black skin and that racial hatred, that skin color discrimination start coming out in them. And white people really think we're stupid. What y'all did last week, that good cop, bad cop business. Hey, we had all these meetings with the mayor. We did this. The mayor's lobbying us. We really want this thing to go through. Black people aren't that stupid. We're just not that stupid. We're that oppressed, but we're not that stupid. When those items came up or came back for a vote, they should have voted on them collectively. So they need a recall. They need a recall in that situation. That's what they need. They need to vote all 5 of them up or down, straight up or down vote. Didn't need to be separated. So that's how they trick African people in the first place. Something that should have happened months ago never happened, and then it comes back up based on what? Now they go on line item veto. No, it shouldn't be that way. We are 26% of this population. It's getting less and less every day because they're kicking us out of our homes, cities stealing property from us, from our parents, from our grandparents. Has been going on. No one in this city council talks about what black people get out of this budget. Not at all. And every day, white people come to our functions, come in our neighborhoods, smile with us, cheese with us, eat watermelon with us, everything. And they're supposed to be our friends. That's a poor standard black people have for ourselves, and we have to change that standard. This city owes us reparations. We want our reparations. Other cities owe us reparations. We want our reparations. America owe black people reparations. We want our reparations. America owe Africa reparations. We want our reparations. We don't want none of the stupidness. We don't want none of this Gasparilla stupidness. Gasparilla is a hate parade. That's what that is. And black people tried to stop it before, and we wasn't successful in stopping it. Gasparilla is a hate parade, and white people making poems about it. And talking about inclusiveness. Ain't nothing inclusive about Gasparilla. It's a hate parade, plain and simple. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Council. Stephanie Pointer. You know, I learn something new every single day about this city. I'm always kind of befuddled at how I did not realize things. And one of the things I learned recently is that comp plans and rezonings do not and have not traveled together always. And, you know, one of the big ones that comes to mind that did not travel together was the comp plan amendments for Rattlesnake Point did not travel with the rezonings. And so when the rezonings came up, the legal department told us it's too late. It's not time for that. You should have done that back then, 2006, mind you, when we had a comprehensive plan amendment, or the comprehensive plan had a whole section on that little peninsula in South Tampa, which makes no sense to me because South of Gandy doesn't have one. Seminole Heights doesn't have their own section. All these big areas of town don't have their own section, but that Rattlesnake Point seemed to get their own comp plan section. Well, I would argue that now City Council is taking on a bigger legal burden by combining the comp plan and the rezonings together. Because if you turn down a comp plan amendment, they really don't have much of a basis to sue the city. But as long as we take those and we put them in bed together, then you guys are at a legal, whatever, anyway. But you get my point. That as long as you continue to take those together, and they haven't always been taken together, I want you to seriously consider going back to the old way where comp plans were taken on one night, rezonings were taken on a different night. They don't have to be 6 weeks apart, just separately. Because that's the best way to uphold this comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan tells us what we need to do in the city. We renew it every, 6 or 7 years? And the problem is, we are not taking that document seriously every single time that we make a comp plan amendment to, lo and behold, one single landowner. We say that that comp plan isn't worth the paper it's written on. Well, why are we spending all this money to have a comprehensive plan written if it's not worth the paper it's written on? That we change it without really, really serious thoughts on the matter. So I just wonder, why do we why did we start doing it this way? And why don't we go back to doing it that way? Because if they're separated, if you turn down a comprehensive plan change, the legal basis for a lawsuit is much, much lower. And they have a harder time filing a lawsuit. And as Ms. Zellman said 2 weeks ago, the legal department doesn't want to spend all this money. And I'm sad Mr. Vieira's not up here because honestly, he talks about how detrimental it is that we not get sued.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to give public comment? Seeing none, do we have anyone online? Ms. Duncan?
Good morning, City Council. Jean Duncan, Administrator for Infrastructure and Mobility. If it's Council's pleasure, I'd like to just give a quick update about the Hillsborough County workshop that occurred yesterday regarding what was previously called the Offer Transportation Funds, if that's okay. So yesterday, the county had a workshop about this topic. They were contacted by the Department of Revenue inquiring about a list of projects that the department would like to have. The discussion was, I would characterize it a high level, not a deep dive on specifics as far as their project list. The good news is that there are $569 million at stake here that could be distributed. We believe from the calculations, our cut based on population is about 124 million. We did hear yesterday that there was an interest on the part of the county to distribute those funds in terms of population. We're not sure how Hart fits into that mix, but that was good to hear, particularly because I felt that the news that came out Wednesday evening on this was not very positive for Tampa. The workshop shed a more positive light on the situation. Our top priorities have been embedded into specific projects that were provided some time ago, but essentially those top priorities are resurfacing and our streetcar. We will be working with the county on what format, what detail level, and so forth that they want our list to be provided to them in. They will be having another discussion in more detail on February 15th. They'll be talking about the distribution as well as their list, and we'll certainly make sure that to the extent our list is incorporated into that, that is what happens as well. Another good note was that the sense seemed to be that the county roads within the city were something that they were considering as, of course, their asset, which they would be addressing with their list. But details will be forthcoming based on this next workshop. Next steps will be that this list is provided to the Department of Revenue, and that there's not a sure step after that, but we'll stay close to this process and, of course, advocate for our needs.
I'm going to go Councilman Goods, Councilman Hurtak, Councilman Carlson. Councilman Goods. I'm sorry, Councilman Maniscalco. I'm sorry, Councilman Maniscalco.
Okay. Real quick, so what is our sidewalk budget for the city of Tampa? Is it right under $1 million a year?
I apologize, I don't have that in my fingertips. It's generally around that amount. We
Okay.
can certainly get you that exact number.
Okay. Our paving budget is in the $4 or $5 million range?
Yes.
Okay. Our streetcar extension to Palm Avenue was right around, what, $100 million?
Last estimates were higher than that. I have Vic Beatty on the line if you want more specific information on that.
Okay, no, but
Okay.
before he answers, if we were to gain access to this, you said $125 million.
Yes.
And let's say the streetcar is $100 million, give or take it. You said it was more, but if we had $50 million, could we then be eligible to apply for any other grants that would help us match or put towards the streetcar expansion, being that we have such a large down payment?
Yes, we'll be fine tuning that number to see what our match would need to be. We are in that process with the Federal Transit Authority currently. And so let me ask Vic if he can offer that specific match that we would need to have. Vic, if you could jump on the line, please.
Sure thing. Morning, Chair, morning, Council. Vic Bide, Director, Mobility Department. So indeed, if we do get these funds will be eligible for matches for federal and state funds so that we can multiply what we're able to do. As far as our priorities, like Jean mentioned, it's primarily resurfacing sidewalks and the streetcar, but we're reviewing options for what that streetcar project is. But the goal still remains to provide a robust urban circulator by utilizing available funds for all of these priorities. So that is a priority, and that will be part of the mix.
Okay, and I remember you showing me a list of sidewalk projects. You know, if AFT went through, this is years ago, and I remember seeing 120 projects that were on that list. I don't know if that was just in my district or it was citywide, but we would certainly be able to tackle a good chunk of that list. We know about the road quality and our limited budget, so we'd be able to tackle a lot there. Are we prohibited to, I don't see how, but to reach out to the county? You say that, you had mentioned that county roads that are within the city would be repaid possibly. So I know we have Howard and Armenia, which are in very bad shape. Columbus Drive, which is, I know, city, county, it's a confusion there. We get a lot of complaints on that. But I guess it'd be a question for Mr. Shelby. If I reached out to the county commission, to the county administrator, individual county commissioners, would we be prohibited under sunshine from just putting a request saying, hey, these are the cities that, these are the roads that are county within the city that we would like priority, or no?
Morris, could I?
I'm sorry.
Councilman, if you don't mind me, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were
Okay.
directing it to Morris, I apologize.
Well, the question is, the process, would this go before the TPO as well?
I really don't know, honestly, because we've been through that process. At this point, it's a matter of working with the Department of Revenue to distribute the funds. But I just wanted to say, we do have a list of corridors which include county roads. So what I would ask is if you could work with staff first to show you what we
Okay,
have.
then I'll reach out to you.
And then if
yeah.
you feel another need of further conversation, we can certainly,
Okay.
give you
Then
the
that-
background at least, and then you can decide from there.
That answers it, but I'll talk with this, as you mentioned first, and then we'll go from there. Thank you very much.
Vic, I saw your hand up. You wanted to add something to that?
Yes, I just wanted to reiterate that the process for local agencies relative to Department of Revenue's request to the county is still in discussion with the county. So at this point, what has been shared by Jean is as much as we know. We will keep council updated on next steps, of course, and what that process is going to be. Our priorities have not changed. Our lists that were submitted when the surtax was first initiated and passed may evolve slightly, but our broader priorities are still resurfacing, sidewalks, and a strong urban core and mobility within that urban core.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Hurtak.
I want to follow up on that. I know we've had discussions about possibly being able to take over county roads. And I would wonder and actually really hope that these funds could go toward the county giving us funding for one of these roads and then us being able to take it over in the future. We have talked a lot about this, and I think this would be a fabulous opportunity to take over some of those roads so that they do belong to us. But I know one of the reasons we haven't is because we don't have the funding to get them up to where they need to be. I think this would be a wonderful way, especially when we're looking at some of these larger roads that are feeders into the city. And that is one of the things that I know the county is interested in, making sure that we have great transportation to bring people into the city for jobs. So I would really appreciate the focus on that. And obviously, I think the sidewalks are great and the streetcar, but what I hear more than anything else right now is about road repaving. So any way that we can try to pull some of those into our jurisdiction with this money would, I think, be absolutely wonderful for the citizens in the long term.
We completely agree that that was the intent when we were intended to get the penny a few years ago, that this would give the county the opportunity to bring those roads up to current standards and then hand them over, turn them over to the city, and then we can control our own destiny. But we didn't want to have to make that capital investment, and start at that level. So yes, we would be pursuing that further.
Great.
Councilman Carlson.
My colleagues hit some of the high notes that I was going to hit, so I'll go quickly through some things. And sorry if you said any of this. Approximately 125 million. When do you? I know it's impossible. When do you think it might come in, and is it going to come in one big payment or over time?
I really don't know.
Okay.
We didn't hear any of those details at the workshop. But we're keeping very close to it because I know the counties are interested in as well with those details.
And then we talk about the streetcar. I'm supportive of the streetcar, but it also depends on the budget. Chair Citro a few weeks ago made a motion regarding the streetcar, and if I remember correctly, and I won't hold him this number, but I think he threw out a number like 16 million. What do you think? And that was just up to where, Columbus or something?
If I may, I was asking for the 25% matching funds the city would have to have.
To Palm.
We keep hearing 100 million to complete the project, but if we want to complete the project, we'd have to come up with the 25% matching funds, which somewhere is between 60 and 20 million dollars to continue it up to Palm, circling up Florida Avenue, Palm, and back down Tampa Street.
So the city's contribution would be 60 million or 16?
It depends. If we're just talking to Palm Avenue, that's a different number. And again, I'll just ask Vic because he has all those numbers right in front of him. Vic, if you could give us the current, what we're looking at currently going up to Palm.
Thank you, Jean. So to clarify, the streetcar project, as council is aware, was initiated several years back. And since then, technologies have changed. Our landscape has changed as well. And then the funding available right now is limited, even with the 124 million. The actual estimate that we have as of 3.5 years ago for modernization and extension was 234 million total, which is why the state allocated 67%, 25% of that. Now that is a very high number relative to resources available, and that is making us look at how do we keep this priority, how do we provide this mobility need to our 4 neighborhoods that make up our urban core right now, while managing costs.
So if I could just, I think, Chair, sorry to cut you off, but I think Chair Citro put on the agenda in the future, we're gonna have a long discussion about the streetcar. And, I'm supportive of the streetcar, but I would suggest with this money, this 124, 25 million, that I'd be okay putting 16 million of it in, but we shouldn't, I wouldn't be in favor of putting more than 25% in, because for the reasons that my other colleagues mentioned, it used to be that broken roads were the number one issue I hear of. Now it's murder rate and crime. But people are really angry about the roads falling apart, and we don't have good answers for them. So I want to make sure that they don't think that we're spending money on a pet project. If there's a way that we can put a limited amount of money to move it to the next phase, we need to show progress and that we're supportive. But if we have a windfall, we need to fix the basic roads, because people are it's knocking their cars out of alignment, their tires are popping, all kinds of bad things. The next one is the list. We approved a list a couple years ago that you were putting into this. Would you mind, especially because we have a new council member, would you mind just circulating that so everybody can see it? And that's still the list you're working from, right?
Yes, we'll send that out today for you in its current format. Again, it may adjust a little bit in terms of how the county wants it, but we can talk about the content of that list before it goes over to the county as well, to refresh everyone if you like.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Because as I remember, that was a very practical list of what we needed. And I echo my colleagues, sidewalks, this council has been pushing for almost 4 years now for better sidewalks, connectivity to schools, just safety in general for walking the streets. And we know that the public wants it, especially now that a lot of people are working from home and people are starting businesses in neighborhoods. We need to make sure that we do that to support our community. I was going to say the same thing Councilmember Hurtak said about county roads. We know with our frustration over Beta Bay, we desperately need a street light there because of fatal accidents that have occurred, and we're relying on the county. I know Councilmember Miranda has had some concerns in the past about county roads coming over. So first of all, talk to him and make sure we overcome his objections. But I think if there's a big amount of money, then we should have a better negotiating position with the county. I think you are looking to set up like a 50-year budget or 100-year budget, something like that. It shouldn't be that they would just turn over the road. They've got to give us a budget to be able to manage it.
Right.
And so then we can set our own priorities about where to put street lights and four-way stops, et cetera. But I think let's not look at the roads, but if you all figure out that long-term budget, let's grab it, see if we can advocate for it. And if you all need our help, let me know. I've been working closely with Commissioner Cohen on that Beta Bay thing, but unfortunately we haven't been able to do it. The other thing is that Vic knows in South Tampa, we've had a lot of problems with state, county, and private contractors and others all working in the same area at the same time. Just like we had Carmageddon a few years ago near the Inner Bay area, south of Gandy. People are really angry because they can't get to and from their houses, especially at peak drive times. And so I know you all are trying, but if you all could try even harder when we do this, let's coordinate with all those agencies to make sure we enable people to get in and out. People want these roads to be fixed as quickly as possible, but they also want to be able to get in and out of their streets. And then the last thing is that we need to figure out, I said this during the budgeting process, but it looks like, considering the political environment right now, it looks like All for Transportation or whatever the next version is not coming in the next 5 or 10 years, at least 4 years. The county commission as it sits right now, I don't think we'll put it on the ballot. The state law is not going to change to let us put it in the city. I don't think that's a good idea anyway. Folks could advocate for it, but we have to, I think we as a city have the responsibility to budget without that. We can't rely on it. And I think, our budget has gone way up in the last few years, and I understand the restrictions of where money comes from, but we need more than a $4.5 million budget for road repair. And so as we go through the next budgeting process, I'll again be advocating for that. But Ms. Duncan, I hope that you and Vic, and I know you all are in earnest trying to solve these problems, but I hope that you will be advocates at the budget negotiating table to say, we really need to listen to public concerns. This and crime are the two biggest issues out there right now. Thank you.
Councilman Goods.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I look at this amount of money, I'm reminded by Ms. Noreen Copeland, who always calls me about her sidewalk. And if we get this money, we need to make sure that we do sidewalk and road repair. I mean, I'm an advocate of the streetcar, but that ain't my biggest priority because that's what people are asking for all over the city. Streetcar is it's a project, and it's designed for this downtown area. You could say your Tampa Heights, which is in my district as well, and I'm glad to support those things when they come abroad when we have the money and funds to do them. But they're bigger priorities, and I just want that money to make sure it's going to sidewalks immediately. That sidewalk fund is so low, it's pathetic. We know that the road repair fund is low. We have a big, huge city, so I would be looking for those funds to be going to road repair and definitely sidewalks and communities.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That amount of money sounds like a lot of money when you look at it, but when you look at the needs and you apply the money to it, it's minuscule.
Yep.
And when you look at what I hear from the people and what I see out in the streets, the roads are in bad shape, very bad shape, because we neglected some of that because of various things. First of all, the pipes programs, you can't break up a street, pave the street, break it up to put the pipes in. You got to wait and wait and wait till it gets further down the road. And the pipe program is not a 1 or 2 year program. It's a 15, 20-year program, continue to finish the whole city. When you have to do a monumental task to change and fix all the pipes underground in a city this size, that's about 4,000 miles of piping somewhere under the city. And it's very difficult to do that. However, that being said, along with the streets comes the lighting of traffic signalization. And I guess they're fine when they were put in and the time they were put in. But now there's a much more population in the city, meaning there's much more automobiles in the city, meaning that the lights that we put in 20 years ago, the signalization process, unless it's been updated that I don't know about, it's outdated because they don't tell you. And sometimes you have a cross section with only one section giving you a left turn where you can turn. And on the other side of the east-northwest side, you can't turn. There's no signalization for you. So the lights also is a hindrance to the movement of traffic. Right here on Kennedy Boulevard, years ago, you could be able to make a left-hand turn without even looking to your right because there was no traffic. Today, you have to wait till the traffic light changes so you can make a left. However, you can only go 40 or 60 feet because in the traffic coming from east to west on Kennedy, you can't make a left-hand turn. It's for real. And not only for us, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about the general population. So the signalization, they make a left to make another left, and they're not, I don't believe they're coordinated. Maybe they are, and the abundance of traffic just doesn't move them. The venues in downtown and the whole venues in the city, because of individuals wanting to see things, it's enormous, especially in the evening. South of us, there's an event, a sporting event, wonderful, fantastic. The boats are doing great, the lightning. However, the traffic has to be augmented to help the people trying to get home or coming from somewhere else. And the bottleneck is fantastic, which shows prosperity in a way, and in a way shows, my God, what am I doing? I can't get home. And these are the things. Just yesterday, I was heading to see someone in Hillsborough and Havana. And when I got to Osborne, I couldn't make a right-hand turn because it's a very popular school, and it's a one lane taken completely for about a block or 2 blocks. So I tried to go around, and when I tried to go around, there was a car coming on the other side, which is fine. I had to go, but what I did not know, that when I was leaving from the other side, it's the same thing in Wellswood on the other side. So the traffic, why? It's not because they're not doing what they're doing the right thing. They're making good education for students going out of that class, and that's why parents want to take them to the school. But we were never prepared to do that. And I'm just saying that not against the school, but just bringing it up in conversation that we must plan differently for the future because it's getting gridlock every part of the city. And when I hear you don't need any parking, I got news for you. Go check all the high schools, all of them. Check their parking lot. Millennium's supposed to be riding bicycles. Well, the millenniums that I know drive cars. I'm not saying they don't ride bicycles, but the traffic is becoming more and more and more. And young people are moving in, And they like Tampa. Yeah, the ones that live downtown can have their services given to them by walking, which is fine. When we were young in Ybor City, we didn't have to go anywhere. We had a grocery store in the neighborhood, right 2 or 3 close by. They were small, but they served your needs. And now everything is gigantic. Wonderful for everyone, but sorry for someone who wants to get in and out, go somewhere on time. You have to time it an hour and a half early. So these are the things that I see. I'm not the streetcar. I was here when we first put it in, and it's done wonderful. It moved 100, I believe I saw it this morning on television, 100 and some odd thousand, 180,000 people the last month, and it was the biggest month they ever had. So it's catching on, but at what price for the general population, those that are not using it? So you have to have a balance to satisfy everyone. So that's where I'm at. I'm not opposed to anything I've heard, but we must spend this money wisely. We can't put it on one project and forget the others. We must help everyone at what time with the money we have. Thank you very much.
Councilman Veranda.
Vera.
Vieira.
That's
What
fine.
do you look like?
No worries,
I've just
Mr.
heard
Chair.
Councilman Miranda.
Don't worry.
Sorry.
You know, it's funny, sometimes when I don't want to say something, I go, don't say X, X comes out. So that happens to me.
apologize
Oh,
for
I don't
this.
care, man, you're cool. No,
You forgot to call it card chair.
there you go, there you go. But, so, you know, a lot of sentiment set up here. I think the overall narrative, and I tend to back this, is that the vast majority of this money, probably 90%, should go to the basic needs. The streetcar is a wonderful thing, and I know Chairman Citro has proposed some things into CRA that we can take a look at, and I support it, but we have a limited amount of money. Probably 90% of that should go to road repairs and just the basics and whatnot. I look at my district, I know that New Tampa Boulevard is a big issue, and obviously 30th Street near Busch Gardens and Fire Station 13 in District 2 for Tampa Police Department is just a road in really, really bad condition. And, you know, you can't forget, again, the urban core is very important. Downtown's important. I've always supported a downtown CRA. We're not finished with downtown development, et cetera. But especially on these funds, we have to have some equitable balance. I have no problem with, you know, shifting some of those funds to the streetcar. But I think that you know, neighborhood common sense dictates that the vast majority of it, 90%, goes to things like repaving. So I support the sentiments up here. Thank you.
If council members have finished, Ms. Duncan, I would like to say that when I proposed the extension of the streetcar, it was meant to be used at matching funds through CRA dollars. And Mr. B-Day, myself, and Ms. Nicole Travis have been talking extensively. And I feel that some of those CRA dollars that would be used in the 4 CRAs, from the 4 CRAs, could be used for other things, affordable housing, maybe even fire station. And again, Mr. B-Day, Nicole, and I have come up with a different option to that. So later on, I will be making a motion to not have the discussion in March and to talk about it hopefully at the next CRA meeting. I agree with a lot of the councilmen here. We have worked hard on getting sidewalks, and especially around schools. We have children in this city that have to walk in the streets to get to schools. That's unheard of. That is not correct. That's not right. So a better pathway to schools by having sidewalks where children can walk to school. Because Tallahassee has forced our Hillsborough County school system that if the child lives within 2 miles of the school, they cannot be bused. Sidewalks are essential. Only 19% of the roads within the city of Tampa belong to the city of Tampa. The rest are county or state roads. I would like to take those roads over, but not unless they're repaved. We are custodians of those roads. We're to take care of them. However, the county has to pay us for that type of repaying. To Councilman Miranda's point, we have the pipes project. Why have them repaved now if they have to just be torn up to do the pipes project? So I would ask that the county, with all this all for transportation money coming in, to at least give us the funds to repave those roads after the pipes project is done, so that we can have those funds to repave the roads. Now, we're talking Howard Armenia. We're talking West Shore. We're talking Kennedy Boulevard. We're talking Columbus. These are all county roads, but yet each and every one of these council members here gets calls every day saying, repair our roads. So I hope the county commission is listening to what we're saying. We need your roads within the city limits of Tampa repaved. Council members, anybody else have any other? Thank you. Ms. Duncan, you wanted to also take agenda item number 8 at this time?
Yes, and if it would, okay.
I apologize. Is there anyone in chambers who wishes to discuss agenda item number 1? Ms. Pointer.
A couple comments. I'm not against the trolley, but it doesn't service the entire city, and this money is for the entire city. Sorry, not sorry. Mobility really should supply a wish list that I guarantee you they can tell us which roads are in the worst condition, and then we can make a priority list from there. We can make a priority list from mobility. I mean, I personally think that Vic Beatty is the most data-driven guy you've got, and he probably can whip out a list very quickly of what needs to be repaired. And of course, then we need to go to sidewalks. And our sidewalk budget is still less than $1 million. And this is 100 and some million, I don't know how much, but the bottom line is if you gave them 5 million, it's gonna be 5 years worth of funding. And that's a very small percent of what you're talking about here. Equity throughout the city is really, really important. Yesterday, when I was at the Housing Task Force meeting at McDill, they have upped the numbers to 24,000 people would still be serviced by their clinic. So you can imagine, that's if they took only active duty members, okay? So imagine all the family members that come to and fro McDill as part of that. And so they're running over the roads every single day. The ferry, we haven't even talked about that. We haven't talked about the work at Interbay. And I only talk about my neighborhood, not because I care the most about my neighborhood, because I know the data for my neighborhood. But if you look at that, I'm sure that each one of you have projects within your district that need to be addressed, just the same as we do south of Gandy. But we need to look at what Mr. Beatty has as far as a wish list, just like Amazon. Let's look at what he wants, and let's figure out where the priorities lie. But I'm sorry, $100 million for a trolley that generates zero revenue, no money. It makes no money. It only costs money to run. Makes no sense to me. If we can get matching dollars, I'm okay with a percentage of it, but not all of it for certain. Because the bottom line is, if transportation and mobility can make money while they're spending money, then that's the smartest way to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Keela McCaskill. I kind of echo some of what all of you have said. You know, remembering that a part of when I was involved with Offer Transportation, the big piece of that was, of course, I have nothing against the streetcar. I actually use it and I like it. But again, it's not the biggest concern that we have. One of the things you've all pretty much touched on was safety. You know, seeing minimizing some of the pedestrian accidents and or deaths as they're traveling to school and or the local park. Some of those accident-prone intersections that's identified in that Vision Zero action plan. They identified key streets that's prone to accidents. I'd like to see it address some of those safety concerns. You've already said sidewalks. You've already said traffic congestion and road repair. And I also like to point out, and I don't know if it fits in that or not, but HART. One of the other concerns that I had was for Heartline. You know, they mentioned their budget was limited. I don't know if those monies can be contributed to HART still, but it usually contributes to those in marginalized communities having the opportunity to have access to transportation to mid to high wage earning jobs. I was one of those kids that relied on public transportation when I was a young, actually just turned 18, and was able to land a job that was far away from where I lived, and I was relying upon public transportation. If HART cuts that budget, that minimizes the opportunities for people living in those communities. And the last thing I wanted to say was how is your concerns enforced? I mean, I hear you saying to her what needs to take place, but I just want to know how they can be held accountable to make sure those funds are used as we're saying today. We know it's safety, we know access to jobs, or transportation, but how is this enforced? I'm not sure, I've never been to this type of workshop, but I would like to know how they can be held accountable so that we make sure that what you're saying actually goes in the system and they're actually being accountable. A lot of times what you say, it comes back and it's a circle. We never get the results. It's just a circle of going over and saying the same thing again. I like to see this enforced to make sure those dollars are being spent where they should be. Thank you.
Taylor Alf, 3703 West San Juan Street. I'm here to speak on a different issue, but as you all know, I'm very involved in streetscape improvements and mobility and things like that, and I figured I'd speak because obviously you all are discussing where the funding should go. I would argue everything that Stephanie's doing is amazing and I love it, but the streetcar does help the rest of our city because 118,000 people that used it last month don't have to rent a car and drive on our roads. They can go to downtown Tampa and they can get around to Ybor, to Tampa Heights on the streetcar. They can walk, they can bike. We have infrastructure in downtown. Yesterday I was at the protected bike lane expansion on Cass Street that actually finally connected the two ends of a protected bike lane, which why are we not filling those things in completely? You have to ride in North Hyde Park on a bike and then you stop at the Cass Street Bridge and they have an incredibly dangerous section and then you can go to the other side. So we need to be connecting these things and making them truly usable. And the streetcar is an example of something that truly benefits our community in so many different ways. Paving Inner Bay or paving West Shore only helps the people along that road too, but it's a very easy thing to point at and say that's the problem. But multi-transit options, alternative transit options, walking, biking, transit, the streetcar is something that's turning into something that can be so much more beneficial to our community in terms of vehicle emissions, noise, maintenance on our roads, congestion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. People want to go to trips, they want to go downtown, they want to be able to walk everywhere, they don't want to have the expense of a car, they don't want to have to, worry about how they're going to get from point A to point B. If they can just walk and ride the trolley, it's an economic driver for our community. So I appreciate and I agree we need to pave our roads, we need to strategize on what the priorities are, we need to do it once rather than twice. We also need to be thinking about how these bike lanes not only provide access for bicyclists, they protect people that are walking on the sidewalk and they help slow down cars and they provide opportunities for people to not even get in their car. And it's not gonna happen overnight because we put in one bike lane, but if we're doing this as a networked solution that actually goes from meaningful places to meaningful places and we encourage good development around all of that infrastructure we're investing in, the ROI for the city is enormous. And I don't know that anyone's tracking how many more people are going to bike on this bike lane now that it's finally connected from North Hyde Park to all the way to Ybor. Are we tracking how many people were biking before and how many people are biking after? Are we tracking how much development is going on around the Riverwalk and how much property taxes and sales taxes are being paid around all of this infrastructure? Because guess what? The city is making a lot of money on putting in really high quality infrastructure, and that's how we need to be thinking about that. The return on investment of our infrastructure investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Ms. Duncan, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but Ms. McCaskill did have a valid point. Can you explain it, especially for our viewers, on how this is going to work from our thoughts, our ideas, on how this off-transportation money is going to be spent and how we get that to Tallahassee?
Yes, so as I mentioned, we're working with the county. I will send a list out today that we've had for some time that is essentially boils down to resurfacing in the streetcar. It's broken into sections of corridors and sidewalks and so forth, but the overarching component of those is a resurfacing piece. So we can certainly share that with you. We can have a conversation about that publicly before it goes over to the county. But it is the same list that we've been referring to, not recently, of course, but that was reviewed by the IOC when we thought we were getting the penny, that went through public processes. But that doesn't mean we can't refresh on it and revisit it before it goes back to the county. In terms of tracking what we're doing once we get the money. The money would come to the city's Revenue and Finance group. That money would be appropriated within the capital program for those particular uses. And so that is sort of your tracking opportunity to see that this category has this amount of money and so forth, and we can show that we're spending those monies where we want to spend them and where we should spend them.
Ms. Beatty, I saw your hand go up.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to augment what Jean mentioned. There is some uncertainty as to the process should the monies become available, and that kind of goes back to the previous decision by Judge Barbas, which was that the Department of Revenue will ask the county for a plan, which they have, and we're in the process of finalizing that plan, but it does go back to the legislature to determine. I see Morris is there, so I'll ask him to add to it.
What Vic is saying is correct. After the all-for transportation tax was struck by Judge Barbas and by the Supreme Court, the money, all the money that was collected for the term that it was in effect has been returned to Tallahassee. The Department of Revenue is now asking for input on how that money may be spent, but that decision is ultimately going to be made, at least at a high level. I don't know how much discretion we'll give to the local governments, but at a higher level that it will be made in Tallahassee by the state legislature.
Thank you. Ms. Duncan, do you want to discuss agenda item number 8 at this time?
Yes, I appreciate that coupling of these two items together. Again, Jean Duncan, Administrator for Infrastructure and Mobility. I could go to this particular slide here. I'll just speak about this, and then if it suits council, I believe that the CIP presentation we're offering will sort of feed into my suggestion on this item of the $20 million. But we can certainly talk about that. So this is just sort of a visual of the current CIP budget and engagement process that we currently have. Obviously, we start out our year with a budget, 2 hearings and an adoption. We bring to you resolutions for reimbursements that we're going to use for funding mechanisms for our projects. Any contract that is executed has to come before the council for approval. This next circle is something we're going to be adding starting in May. So today is sort of just a peek at what we will be bringing to you in May from now on an biannual basis. And that is going to be a biannual CIP presentation. We will accompany that with a biannual production report, similar to what we're doing for stormwater, where we send out the stormwater quarterly report, which I think was Councilman Maniscalco's suggestion at the time. It's worked very well for us and you. So we want to do that as well for all these other infrastructure projects. Again, one-on-one council briefings, we do our best to offer those details on specific things we think you're interested in or that we think are high profile. It works both ways. We reach out for those briefings. We welcome your requests for one-on-ones with us as well if you think you're hearing something and you want to know more about it. We have neighborhood association meetings going on probably every day of the week except maybe Fridays. We have someone from our team at some sort of neighborhood association meeting either speaking generally about things or speaking at a particular project. Then we have the mid-year budget review that our Revenue and Finance team does in conjunction with our capital program. Any major project that we're doing has a particular public engagement plan for that project, which often has a PR team associated with it. And then we start that circle of life again. So this is our process, which we feel is transparent and engaging in terms of getting that CIP information out to others and getting that feedback in. The meetings that we do have with the public at the association meetings and for our public engagement plans, we're seeking that input from the public because we often modify our projects based on what we're hearing from the public. So my suggestion for the request for additional public hearings for an item over $20 million, again, if we want to land on that final decision after this next presentation, but I would just say that it's not always a dollar label that brings something to a high level. I'll give the example of the median and sidewalk work we did and the safety improvements we did in front of the Fresh Kitchen down in South Tampa, DeSoto, Mississippi. There's like a 5-legged intersection. That took us over 2 years of public engagement to do that project, and it was about $100,000. So the dollar amount isn't always an indicator of what is really important. It is important that we're spending a lot of money on something, but it's not always of most interest or the highest interest. So I believe if we have another way of enhancing what we're doing now that would capture anything that would be very concerning or very interesting to the public, that might be a better alternative than picking a dollar amount and then going in that route. We can certainly talk about that now, or if you'd like to hear the rest of the presentation, then we can decide how that particular item how you might feel about that when we get done.
Shall we listen to the rest of the presentation and then ask questions after that? Yeah. Please.
Thank you so much. So I'll let Dennis share a little bit, and then we'll continue on.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, Council. Dennis Rajero, Chief Financial Officer. I'm going to walk you all through a brief refresh and reminder of the capital improvement program before Gene and the team get into some detailed presentations about particular projects. As we did last year and as we will do going forward, both summary and very detailed information is available on the website as part of that OpenGov program we continue talking about. And I'd like to just walk us through that right now. There we are. And that's the title page that you'll see when you go into OpenGov. And as you see here at the top, a very broad macro overview of the 5-year capital improvement program. And we get into some highlights, again, overall what's happening throughout the city and what we expect to happen over the next 5 years. Got some project photographs, again, to give the reader, to give the public, to give you all a feel for what we're doing. The various elements that go into a capital improvement program: design, permitting, land acquisition, things like that, construction. And you'll see, and the reader can take as much or as little from this as they'd like. If they want to do a deep dive in some of these things, it's there for them. But we're really trying to walk away giving the reader an idea of the various phases and various items that go into a long-term capital improvement project. Again, some photographs of what we're doing. And then here's where we start getting into very great detail. Each of these on the right is a link to each department's capital improvement project that we have as part of the plan. So we're taking it from a very broad overview, as I said, down into a very detailed explanation and associated with each project within each department. Then if the reader wants more detail, we get into the various funding sources that go into funding the capital improvement project. An overview here, and then if you see on the lower right, view the report. I won't go into that now because it goes down quite a few rabbit holes. And then we re-summarize by department the 5-year plan for the appropriations and allocations associated with the capital improvement project. Here is our ArcGIS map identifying the capital improvement projects from 2022 and 2023. As we go forward in time, every single active capital improvement project will be on this map. Right now, we've got 2 years. And in the background, this is kind of a systemic coordination of information between the Revenue and Finance Department, the various departments, and especially I'll give credit to the Technology and Innovation Department. Again, a deep dive into sources of financing. Where are these sources coming from for all of these projects? And just as we talked about the phases associated with the capital improvement project, here the reader can take a summary or a very deep dive as to where this funding comes from and what they can be used for. Grants. There'll be a more detailed grant sheet later on down the web page. Debt. Of course, as we've discussed and as council knows, a great deal of major projects over the course of 5, 10 years, et cetera, calls for some debt issuance. And we have been very proactive in planning that out, as you know, the debt issuance requirements for what we plan to do in the future. And we get into some more detail about the comprehensive plans and how that interacts with where this city is going forward, where we intend to take this ship, if you will. I won't go into it all right now. Comprehensive improvement section schedule. A little bit about the budget process. You've heard Ms. Duncan speak to that a bit. And then finally, we never want to forget the operational impacts associated with capital improvement projects. It's not just building a building. It's not just cranking up a part. You've got to plan for the maintenance of that project. You've got to staff that project. For instance, again, using parks and recreation as an example. And the capital improvement project that we have now calls for millions and millions of dollars of operating costs into the future. If it's going to be a fire station, for instance, if it's going to be a park, you can count on spending that operating funding in perpetuity as long as that asset is active. So we don't want to lose sight of that, although we, in the course of our discussion for the 5-year capital improvement plan, we do concentrate on the large revenues and the construction and land acquisition. But there is a significant tangent to that also. Moving back to the presentation, we will come through today, give you an overview. Again, team members will speak to specific project details, descriptions, funding sources, planned funding levels, what's available in the particular project. We've had that discussion before. And again, the ArcView map. And here is our fiscal year 23-27 capital improvement program. You recall seeing this slide during our various meetings during the budget preparation process. 5-year program, again, containing over 300 projects and totaling just over $1.9 billion. I'd like to remind council and the viewing public that this is one of the keystones for our annual United States Government Finance Officers Award that we are very fortunate to receive. You'll note I said fortunate but not lucky. It is not luck. We do a very good job, whether it's council, the mayor, the team, the public, of identifying priorities and charting a course forward. This 5-year program is the preferred gold medal standard for the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association. We craft a very good plan. So it's $1.9 billion over the course of 5 years, and you see in just the first year, you got about a third of that. We're coming very aggressive into this 5-year capital improvement plan, and you see the emphasis on infrastructure, whether it's solid waste, water, wastewater, parks is getting a significant investment also. And a final refresh for you and the viewing public. Again, our capital improvement program are the big projects. Okay, it's not vehicles, it's not helicopters, things like that. These are assets with a life expectancy of over a year, again, as I've said, often requiring debt issuance. This, in a very big way, charts the long-term course for the city, as every year, council and the mayor review this plan and augment it for the next 5 years. Having said that, I'll turn it back over to Ms. Duncan. Thank you, and of course, I'll be here throughout the presentation. There you go, Jean.
Thank you, Dennis. So council, you may recall, I believe it was in January, your chief of staff came before you to talk about what we're calling the Great 8 process. Oh, excuse me, lost my, can you see the slide? I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. And so basically, this is a sort of a realigning, streamlining, and consistency application to existing project management processes that we have. You can imagine, like you saw the list that Dennis showed, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of capital projects, many, many, many individuals, many departments involved. And so this is bringing a little more of a consistent template, particularly starting out with the high profile projects, I'll call them. And so we talked about having an identified set of stakeholders for each project, which I have listed here. I won't read them all. And we're adding this process to our planning and our project management to ensure that we're not missing any key things at the very, very beginning of even thinking or talking about a concept for a project. And we believe this is going to give a lot of strengths to the process we already have to make sure that we don't overlook anything of very great importance that we don't want to find out later on. So as part of that, we are going to finalize our format for the biannual report that we're going to start to send to you all. And we want to have this, like we did with some of the SIRE items, which was a great suggestion. I think Councilman Hurtak was one of those that requested that, and all of you wanted that as well. We're going to have a format that I've outlined here just for consistency, because we think that will help, again, make sure we're not missing anything, not have to confuse different styles. And so obviously each project is going to have this key information in it so that, again, we can be clear, consistent, and all of those interesting points that everyone would want to know ahead of time are listed and they're updated on regularly. So with that, we thought we would offer up a sample of projects to talk about in detail today. If you'd like to hear about all of these, this is the list that we have proposed for today. We imagine that our first biannual report will probably have about 20 key projects in it that are of most interest. Eventually we will add to that, but right off the bat, it's cumbersome to put every single project into that report. We have reports, obviously, in different formats and within different departments, but for purposes of council and the public, we want something that's not too much of a data dump, so to speak. So we picked this handful of projects today to update you on specifically. We have our team members and stakeholders for each of these projects, either here or online, to give a quick update. I believe you got a fact sheet for each project in your packet, so we can be as brief or as extensive as you like, depending on the project. And we thought we'd go through one by one and hit the highlights, see if you have any comments or questions, and then we'll run through the list here again at whatever pace you would like. So we'll start out with Fire Station 20. Oh.
Councilman Carlson, you're recognized.
Just one comment on
Yeah.
format. I like this format a lot, and thank you all for presenting. The only thing I would recommend adding, and unfortunately it may dump some of these into 2 pages, is just like a top 10 list on what's being paid for underneath this. Like I was looking at Vila Brothers, and I can see the overall budget, but it would be helpful to say, finishing the playground, building another bathroom, whatever the projects are, just so we could see what the subcomponents are, and not, you could probably in some of them do a 200 list, but just some of the big buckets would be helpful.
Okay.
And then you could put an other at the end, just so we could see and the public could see. I'm sure Sandy Sanchez and Martha Vila want to know what's in that.
Yeah, okay, certainly, we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, if that suits everyone for this workshop today, we'll start with our Fire Chief, Barbara Tripp, on Fire Station number 24.
Good morning, Council. Barbara Tripp, Temp Fire Rescue Fire Chief. Just to talk a little bit about Fire Station 24, that's part of this project. So basically, Station 24, we are actually looking in the area of North Tampa to build another fire station. Currently, we have Engine 24 and Rescue 24 operating out of another station. That unit was put in place, I want to say, in 21. When I came in to assist with the call volume up there, and we have been working with real estate as well as other departments to determine a good location. We have ran into quite a few dead ends, but right now, as we speak, we have a plus. We in the process of acquiring some city property that's up off of Whiteway area, which would be the perfect location to put that station. And that station would actually house those 2 units out of Station 13, and which would allow some stabilization up in the area. That station will also provide the need for medical and fire protective services in that community. As I stated, I'm currently in the process of having meetings with Stormwater. The land that we have appeared to have some sort of flooding on it, and they're doing surveys right now to make sure. So basically, we already acquired the land. It's city-owned property, and looking forward to some positive results from that. Pretty much, The benefits of that, once again, as we talked about, as far as trying to take care of some of the call volume that's up in the North Tampa area and put the resources where we need it. So that's pretty much, if you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Chief Tripp? Thank you, Chief.
Due to technical difficulties beyond our control, this ride is now closed.
Luckily, I go to the gym. I was ready for that. I apologize. I didn't give our new convention center director the clicker commands here. There's one right here.
You got it. Only one seat, so I'm good.
Got it.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Good morning, Council. My name is David Ingram. I'm the Executive Director of the Tampa Convention Center. I'm hopefully going to make this really quick and have some good news for you. Our project basically is for the renovation of the Convention Center. We did it in 3 phases. As we're getting older, we were here since 1990. We needed to do some mechanical renovations. We needed to update our meeting rooms, and then we also wanted to expand. So those 3 prongs have actually been addressed at this renovation. They have. Mechanical is pretty much going to be done in about June. The meeting room renovations, our internal ones, are going to be, we're slated for March, but with the business that we've had and the increased business, we've had to push that back to about April or May. But the real big piece is here. The good news story is the expansion of the 16,000 square feet will be done by the end of June. Our first event after that will be in July for the Florida Bar Association, so we're already looking at returns on having that new additional space. As a big piece project, I look at it as the benefits of not only are we becoming a little bit more efficient by upgrading our mechanicals, but the additional space allows us to be a little bit more flexible and get a little bit more business. I know I've talked to some of you individually. One of the big things that I'm really big on and trying to move forward in the convention center is our economic development. And if we can get a little bit more space and we get a little bit more updation on our events, or excuse me, on our space, the events will come and it gives a better economic return for the expansion, as well as it gives you the increase of sales tax revenue, all the other additional stuff that helps the city as a whole to solve some of the other issues that we have. So hopefully, like I said, mine is really short, sweet, a good news story for everybody. So if you have any questions, I'm here for you. If not, I can wait till the end.
Councilman, I have a question. I just want to welcome you to the job that you have. However, you're limited to some degree because of the size of your center. It's about 220,000 square foot at minus or plus another 20 or so.
You are correct.
And what happens there is that you can't get the big conventions that got 8,000, 10,000 people. Because at first time, way before your time, we had a convention center without a convention center hotel. And we suffered a lot. But by doing that through different administrations, we became viable and competitive in the marketplace, and the success is based on the ability to have rooms to rent so people can go to the convention. That being said, do you plan, what are the future plans for that convention center? And you're the one that's going to lead it. In the next 50 or 20 years, your vision plan has to be made up because you're surrounded by very little room to expand. Am I correct?
You are correct.
So what are we planning on doing? If not now, you don't have to give me an answer now to this body now, but for the future, to see things happening, and of course, it's all based on the economy-driven sector. We have gone from a sleepy city that produced cigars and other great things in America to one that has now tech companies and the vibrance of young people coming in that were not from here. When your grandkids don't leave Tampa and they go to other schools and they come back, that's what makes the city vibrant.
Sure.
Because it keeps adding young blood to the formula of surviving. And we're there at that point where if you look at the development in downtown and the whole city, and west of us at the general side and all that, east of us, I mean, it's unbelievable. You can write a book and read it and still not believe it, but it's there. And it's based on so many things, so many factors, like the convention center, like the hotels, like the availability for young people to do what they like to do, have a nice time, enjoy their life, and work hard. And so I like to see something, not today, not tomorrow. I might not be here in 10 years, but you have to have a plan for what's going to happen in 10 years.
Sure. The 50,000 foot view of it is the expansion and looking at it as a public-private partnership potentially, because there are some private properties that are there that are adjacent to us that allow us to still stay elevated and keep continuity with our building, especially on the exhibit hall floor. the key piece that I think, and I hope everybody can take away from it, is it's not just the center expanding, it's the hotel community expanding as well. Realistically, in the big picture, if you can get a public-private partnership to create a true flag hotel for the convention center, that's probably around 8 to 1,000 rooms, you can go get those big conventions. In conventions, you have to look at it from the perspective, is it having that large one here? Great. Yes, it helps us with name brand recognition, but you want the capacity to have multiple events at multiple times. So if I have half the building for cheerleaders and the other half for defense contractors, but I don't have enough hotel rooms for either one, I've just lost the battle. I can't recruit new business. I can't retain the business that I have. And the industry is still growing. I know COVID took a big hit for a lot of the industry. But our industry rebounded very quickly, and you can see that by a lot of the other expansions that are growing around the country. Austin's doing one, which is a comparable size city to us as far as space-wise in the convention center. Milwaukee's finishing up one. So there's a lot of that mid-tier group that we're competing with that if we don't continue to move forward and explore that public-private partnership, we're going to be left behind. And that's something we don't want at all.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, and we should have a longer conversation about this another day, but just some quick questions following on my my colleague just now. There were, if I remember correctly, there were some renderings that were leaked or posted a few months ago that had a hotel on top. Are you looking at partnering with the private sector outside the footprint, or like build skyways, or are you looking to build something on top still?
I think that what you can correct me if I'm wrong. I've been here for 2.5 months, so
yeah.
What was leaked through? I think it was what you saw was an article in the Business Journal, the Tampa Bay Business Journal, that had the extension of the convention center going across diagonally to a vacant property, and that was going to be redeveloped with a combination of both public and private that had hotels, I believe affordable housing, and expansion of the convention center. I haven't delved into that, but if you take that premise, that's exactly what would ultimately need to happen. You would need to go across the street and then build vertical. I could have and I'm just picking a number, floors 3 and 4, and the rest could be a hotel that has the ability to house 8 to 1,000 rooms.
So another quick question, and we can talk about it more later, but I don't think we're in the category of competition with Orlando or Las Vegas, the big cities like that. But in the category we are, what category are we in? And then in that category, when we're done with these renovations, how competitive are we? Are we, I mean, setting aside that Tampa's a great city and people want to visit here, just the facilities themselves. Now we have the JW and Marriott and Embassy Suites and all the other convention space. Are we very competitive in our category right now, or is there a lot more we need to do to catch up in that category?
We are very competitive. The one thing that will truly limit us is the hotel occupancy, to be quite honest. You mentioned Orlando and Vegas, and the other one I would throw in there, even though it's declining on some levels, is Chicago. A lot of that has to do with the destination package and what actually has to offer. You need an airport, you need infrastructure, you need hotel rooms, and you need a convention center. We have a phenomenal airport here. The infrastructure, after today's conversation, sounds like it could be improved. The convention center, you have a phenomenal one. It's a hidden gem that a lot of people may not know in the community. The one thing that truly comes down to now is the next one is the hotel package. And if the hotel community can get on board and we all function together and you have another 1,000-room hotel, we have the ability to be the #1 destination in our market.
Stop me. What is our category called?
We're a second-tier city.
Okay.
And the reason you break that up, and it's based on the size and your lift of the airport. So if you look at Chicago, Vegas, and Orlando, they're over 1 million square feet. So they're going to look at it as a tier 1 city.
Yeah. And then kind of following question, stop me if you can't talk about this, but if I remember correctly, the Embassy Suites was built so that you could build another tower on top of the parking deck there.
I'm going to defer to Councilman Miranda, who's been here far longer than I have.
Anyway, I don't know how many rooms they have on the one side, but if there got to be creative ideas of using space there. As I remember, they built the infrastructure on the other side so they could build like a twin tower. That would be another probably couple hundred rooms. Anyway, we'll talk later. Thank you.
Sure.
Councilman.
Well, the gentleman is right. I can remember several times we tried to get minority visits here in Tampa, and they all failed because we did not have the hotel space. If you don't have hotel space because people want convenience, you want to be in a hotel where you can go get on the elevator and go right downstairs to the convention areas.
Correct.
That's just the way that is. I'm glad that my fraternity will be the first fraternity to have a conclave here in the city of Tampa. Roughly, it's going to be probably about 20,000 campers are going to be here, maybe more, because we haven't had a conclave since COVID in about 10 years now. So I'm glad that, you know, we were slated to get it probably about 8 years ago. When Commissioner Miller was in charge of the county commission, and we just couldn't get it. In the ninth hour, they went to Orlando. That was the most disappointing thing for us here in Tampa, we could see, but we're glad that we were able to accommodate now with the hotel space. And you're right, if we can get more hotels, especially on top of that convention bureau, you know, you're talking about convenience. I mean, we probably could get that next year because that's what people want. They want that convenience. So
It's all about walking distance and what amenities you have. And right now, the downtown area has phenomenal amenities. It's just, and we're walkable, so it's just getting those extra hotel rooms.
No different when I went to Chicago. Everything's right there. I go there out the door. I can walk. You know, I don't have to worry about transportation places. So, and that's what people are looking for, the convenience. But thank you for the ideas.
Councilman Moran.
But thank you very much. I never had the pleasure of meeting you, and it's a pleasure to know you now. You're very direct and very straightforward, and I like that kind of approach. The convention center, along with other entities in the city, is what brought it up. At one time, we had a convention center and 0 hotels to speak of. So therefore, we were in a negative. But the Marriott came on, the Embassy Suite came on, others came on, the Florida Inn did a lot of extensive repairs, and other new ones have opened, certainly one a 5-star one. So these things are there, and it's led to a lot of other things. For instance, the aquariums had a record year last year, having, I believe, 950,000 people come to the aquarium. The streetcar just travel by there, and there's a lot of, ambience to do things. And downtown has changed when it was in the 70s to now, and it's all for the good. You look at the other one that we have, the Zoo Tampa, they broke all records. They're the largest entity of their class in the state of Florida. They had like 1,250,000 people visited last year. And from what I understand, they're in a record year this year also. So these are the things that certainly the people come to town, come to the city, and they enjoy themselves. But if it wasn't for your entity and the 2 entities that I just mentioned, kudos to all of you, because who knows what would be happening if they weren't here. So it would be a different downtown. It would be a different ambience. Kids learn a lot when they go to the aquarium and the zoos, and the parents learn even more. They learn how to keep the kids close to them. But because they get so excited, it's just an exciting thing to see things that they've never seen before. So these are the things that are bringing it to Tampa. Although convention center is well over 25 years, it looks like it was built yesterday. And that's the maintenance of it has been very good. And I'll be discussing other things with you when I have time. When you have time, I have time for you, sir, to meet with you and just talk to you about the convention center. I think it's going great, and it's one of the items that's making the city even better every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A lot of that has to do with the existing staff.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, just one more quick thing. It reminded me, especially with the trolley car, there's connectivity to Ybor, and the folks in Ybor would appreciate more kind of joint marketing collaboration. And I think they're a major asset that is attractive, that helps sell the convention. To the extent that you can I know that's partly the CVB, but to the extent that you can partner with them more, there's space, there's restaurant venues and other things, and they would love to partner with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Duncan, we're going to move to the Riverwalk next.
Yes, I have Mr. Bede and then Adria Colina online for the next 2 items, if that's okay.
Thank you, Jean, and morning, Chair, morning, Council. Vic Bede, Director of Mobility Department. So I'm going to talk about the West Riverwalk project. Is that slide up?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the West Riverwalk project is really critical to our urban core and renewal on the west side of the river along downtown, but going further up past the interstate as well. This was made possible because of a strong business case made to Federal Highway through the build grant. Specifically, the business case included 3 criteria: economic development. We've seen what benefits we have with the current Riverwalk on the east side of the river, the activity, the walkability, and the connectivity that it's fostered. The second is connectivity itself. So while this is a 2-mile segment along the river and Rome Avenue and partly Platt Street and Columbus Drive, which kind of creates a loop just west of the river, what it also does is provide seamless non-car transport, so walk, bike, micromobility, connectivity, all the way from Bayshore and Gandy to Ybor City via existing trails and connections that we have. So this really connects a big part of Tampa south of the interstate, including neighborhoods north of the interstate, which brings us to the third part of the business case, and that is equity. This was also a critical component of the build program. And so to that end, this facilitates connectivity to West Tampa and neighborhoods north of the interstate, both very diverse as well as working class neighborhoods, as you all are aware. Next slide, please. The current project status is that council approved the agreement with Federal Highway last year. We thank you for your support of this critical project. It is a $30 million project, $24 million from Federal Highway, $6 million match by the city towards these improvements that you see on the screen, and more as we discussed. We are in the process of finalizing the RFP package and getting it out on the street with a goal to complete the project by December 26. To that end, we're continuing to work with USDOT, Federal Highway, and all of our other partners. And speaking of partnership, I'd like to celebrate what made this possible beyond the business case and our stakeholders and representatives, and that is the city team, the Mobility and Parks team. We are really fortunate as a city to have a world-class team, and led by Danny and Lara and Nina that are at the helm on this project from Mobility, but Tony and Brad on Parks side as well. So at this time, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, Vic, I want to congratulate your team and anybody who worked on the grants process also. And thank you to Congresswoman Castor for her help on this. Like you said, you and the planning department have some really brilliant people with great vision, and we need to hear more of those voices of what Tampa can be, and really think ahead. So I would encourage you and any of those great minds listening, tell us so that we can put you on the agenda and workshops and have you come back. I would love to see people's ideas for 20 years from now or 30 years from now, what you think the city would look like. Anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilwoman Hurtak.
I love this, and I'm wildly excited about it, and thank you for your team for doing everything for it. The one thing, and I know you're just talking about the segments that are already here, but just as we were talking earlier about the Cass Street extension that was connected just earlier this week, just even showing that on this map somehow to show the other connectivity that this is going to bring, I think really would just benefit even more, because Cass Street just slices right through that, and that's adding connectivity to West Tampa and also to Ybor. Those are those things that I know it's not part of this project, but just letting people know how much further they can really go when looking at this map.
Anyone else? Is this ending your presentation, Mr. Bidet?
Yes, sir. I'd just like to make a final point. We've conducted significant community engagement on either sides of the river and the interstate towards this project. And on a very periodic basis, Brandy does present to the West Tampa CRA, West Tampa community, Draina, and the Friends of the Riverwalk. And I'm sure I'm missing a lot of other folks as well. So the community is part of it and supports it, and we will update our communications materials accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. I've got Director Adri Colina on for the next item on Hannah Avenue. Adri?
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Jean. Good morning, Council. Adri Colina, Director of Logistics and Asset Management. I am excited to appear before you this morning to give you an update on the City Center at Hannah Avenue. I'll just keep in line with the template that we have. Our business case for this project is, of course, for decades, the City of Tampa has operated in outdated, inefficient, and outgrown lease spaces at various locations throughout the city, which are also located in flood zones. Our customers deserve a government center that provides city services conveniently, efficiently, and fiscally responsibly. And our employees, frankly, deserve a space that will improve their working environment. And this facility will also serve as a COOP site in times of emergencies. So our current project status, I'm very excited. I know some of you have been by there. Currently, we are at 60 to 65% overall project completion. We broke ground on the project a year ago in January of 2022. 2 buildings, so the main building and the parking garage, are completely up. We're working on the interior of the main building. We have begun working on the foundation for the fleet site. And then, of course, facilities will follow right after that. On the strategic goal alignment, I just wanted to talk with you and really thank you for challenging us on the workforce development component and the apprenticeship component. We will be providing you, the city will be providing you with an apprenticeship goal update on February the 2nd. But I can give you a little sneak peek and let you know that we are exceeding those goals. And many of you have been on site and you have really learned firsthand the impacts that this project is having on contractors and subs and apprentices working on site. So we're making a big difference in the lives of so many because of this project. Tomorrow, there will be, DPR is hosting a job fair at the NFL Yet Center in the heart of East Tampa on Lake Avenue. It is East Tampa specific, Hannah specific, and we're looking for all trades. And that's gonna take place from 9 a.m. to noon tomorrow. So just wanted to give you an update on that. From a transportation standpoint, thank you, a few weeks ago, you approved some mobility improvements, which will make a difference. And that was a concern of the neighbors, just increasing streetlights, adding sidewalks. So I want to give a shout out to Mr. B-Day and his team as well for partnering with us. Sustainability and resiliency. I am very proud to share with you that this project actually won an AIA Architecture Award at their recent Tampa Bay Design Awards ceremony held towards the end of last year. We won in the unbuilt category because, as you know, the project will be a silver LEED project. So the project won based on the emphasis on resilience, our energy, water, structure, and lighting components, as well as indoor air quality. And again, council recommended or specifically asked for additional solar panels to the fleet and facilities building, EV charging stations, and some other items that, together with what was already baked into the project, really earned us that award. Affordable housing, we're going to be making a difference there because our affordable housing office will be there, more accessible to the community. And so, you know, I've just hit on some of the highlights of the project and the many benefits. Lastly, I want to share, it's again, it's a COOP site, but it will be in a non-flood zone. So we'll be in evacuation area E, which is 63 feet above sea level, versus right now, you're currently at TMOB, you're at 36 feet. And our current EOC is at a 51 foot, and it's also a hardened building. So we've taken great care to ensuring that moving us into the future, we're in the best space for all of us. In terms of budget, I know we've heard many times over the 108 million. I just want to remind everyone that that 108 million includes what was approved and spent in 2015, the original project. It includes what council allowed for an amendment to the project in March of 2021, which was 6.3 million, and that was for the design, build, and demolition. And then, of course, it includes the GMP that council also approved in November of 2021 for the actual construction, and that's the 101 million. So that's where we stand in terms of budget. And with that, I think that's what I have for an update, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes, thank you. I want to congratulate Saul Fleshman and his team for brilliant architecture and anybody else who worked with them. Thank you to my colleagues for pushing for the sustainability aspects of the project. Just on the numbers for a second, if I could ask some clarifying questions. It was 108 million, but on the back here it says 119, 610, 801. Is that an increase in cost, or is that just including now some costs going back to 2016? Is the budget we approved, the 108, still the same, or have there been new costs that have come on board?
Hi, Adri, and hello again, Council. Dennis Rahero, Chief Financial Officer. I can answer that. Yeah, if you look at the detail, you'll see that the 108 million was referencing, of course, the debt issuance we did for the overwhelming majority of the cost. That's the Series 2021B. However, there have been other funding sources approved for this project over time, either as Adri, Ms. Colina referenced years ago, or up until relatively recently, for the total you see there of 119.6.
So that's the total cost going back to the beginning?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, and so plus or minus 120 million. And then, if I remember correctly, the interest on the 108 was 71 million. Is that still the same?
I will circle back to you. I don't have that offhand, but I'll find out for you.
And then, do you know what the 20 or 30-year O&M costs are, or per year O&M costs are?
I will also, we've got that somewhere. I don't have it right on me. Unless Ms. Colina has it, she may have it at hand.
I actually do. So we broke that down, and the O&M cost for 30 years, let me find that slide for you, Councilman, was a little over $500,000 a year for all the sites. Let me find that. I apologize.
That's actually my next question. That was what you were spending before, right? But what is the O&M cost per year going to be for the new building? Do you know yet? Do you have
No, sir, we don't have that just yet.
Does anybody have any idea at all?
Not off the top
We
of my
can
head,
get
but
that for
we'll
you.
circle back to you, sir.
If you don't mind getting it and send it to both the interest and the annual O&M costs, and just circulate it to council, that'd be great. And then back on the page before that, it asks about, or it talks about the 500,000. That's the current, or before we plan this project, that's the annual lease payments we're paying for people to be in multiple places around the city, and then O&M. But how much of that 500,000 a year is lease, and how much of it is O&M?
Do you have that, Ms. Colina?
I sure do, and the lease portion is actually minimal, and let me remind you, the lease portion is also based on a lease that we entered into 30 years ago. So let me find that breakdown. I apologize.
While you're doing that, if you just take 500,000 a year for what we're paying now, and you multiply it by 30 years, understanding that it may go up, but that's about 15 million.
Correct.
Versus, you have to do an apples and apples, you'd have to take 119 plus, if let's say 71 is the interest, so that would be 190 plus whatever the O&M is over 30 years, and then divide that out by year.
And we've run that, sir. with, as you, I believe you mentioned, an inflationary factor. And when you do that, of course, even if it's just 3, 5, 7% over the course of 30 years, it will be appreciably more than $500,000, but we've run that, we'll get that to you.
Yeah, so just be kind of back in the napkin, not including O&M, it looks like it's about $6 or $7 million a year. That's the $120 million plus interest. We don't know what O&M would be, but let's say it's $6 million a year versus $500,000. I know everybody needed to be consolidated, but did you all look at if you could rent how many square feet is it?
It's 161,000 square feet in the main building only. We also have fleet and facilities. And I'll let you finish that. I did find the numbers, but I'll let you finish your train of thought.
And I'm not, obviously this project is almost finished. I'm not trying to undo the project. I'm just trying to explain because the public, because of all the publicity, the public asks a lot of questions. And I'm just trying to get to the business case for it so I can explain. If they see, well, you're paying $500,000 a year with this other project, you're going to be paying $7 million a year more. But it's a 30-year lease. So if somebody did the valuation and said, at today's rates now it's $70 a foot instead of 20, and I just, it would be helpful to have those kinds of messages to go back to the public. Sorry, Adria, do you have any?
Yeah, no, I do. And I thank you. And I actually thank you for bringing this up because you're absolutely right. There's a lot of information out there and a lot of it is inaccurate. So I appreciate the opportunity to kind of clarify and thank you for your patience with me as I found the numbers. So annual lease and O&M currently is at $507,000 a year. And again, this is based on leases that we entered into 30 years ago. For our Lemon Street site, we only pay O&M. We do not pay anything there. For North Boulevard, we're currently paying $121,000 a year. Can't find that now. And then at GTE, which is our EOC and some offices there, we're paying $200,000 a year. So when you add all that for 30 years, you're looking at $15.2 million. Looking at today's prices for rent and lease comparison, based on current market value, you're looking more at $2.3 million annually. And so over 30 years, you're talking about $69 million on a space that we will never own. And again, this doesn't include O&M, which I do not have for you right now, but it already shows right there. You're looking at $70 million on sites that are not as conducive, that not constructed specifically for our customers, for our employees, and we will never own.
I just did, and sorry to belabor this, and if you get any apples and apples comparison, it'd be interesting to see what we're paying now, what we would pay if we rented 161,000 square feet, and then what we're paying for this, including interest, capital, and O&M. But do you have any idea what the per square foot lease rates are in that area right now?
I don't. It varies. It varies based on the use.
So I mean, a lot of places now, this is on the higher end, but a lot of places are paying $70 a foot. I just multiplied it out. That's like $11 million a year. If you have that for 35, that's $5.5 million a year. So that, it'll be interesting to see what the lease rates are there now with some kind of escalation in it. And I think then if you're using those kind of comparisons, you get pretty close to the $7 million a year. So it would be helpful to have those kind of numbers to explain to the public. Thank you.
You're welcome, Councilman. And one more thing I want you to just know that we've been extremely mindful of. Council has, and rightfully so, been very vocal about not having an appetite for leasing space and for us owning it, for having something that will be ours, which is in the long term, in the best interest. So that was another reason why we steered clear of that leasing option.
Councilwoman Hurtak, you're recognized.
Thank you. I did a tour with you a few weeks ago of this space, and you talked about needing to come back and ask us for more money for the project. So this is not going to be the total. Could you talk a little bit about how much more money you need?
I will. Thank you very much. So we are scheduled to come before you again on February the 16th. And what that increase includes, and again, I'm just kind of letting you know beforehand, are the very asks that council had. The addition to the fleet and facilities building for solar panels. When we came before you in asking for your approval in the GMP, We did not have the fleet and facilities equipped with solar because we were trying to be mindful of cost. But council asked for that, and I think that's a great thing, and it helped us get the award, and it'll help us for sustainability in the future. That ad, of course, wasn't included in the GMP because it was asked when we came before you. We have not come sooner because really it wasn't the time to ask for that money to do the ordering and installation. But as the progress has occurred, here we are. And it also includes the additions of the EV charging stations. Again, council asked, but it's something we really want and need. So we were excited to accommodate that ask. It sets us up for success in the future. And then it also includes a minor increase for cost and supplies.
So what was the total there?
3.7 million.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Councilwoman, and thank you for coming out.
Councilman Moran.
I'm sorry, I had to step out for a moment. You know, what is good for rent and what is good for ownership? Renters always want to have a house to live in, paid for. And when a government, or this government, or any other government, goes out and rents, in essence, you're paying your own ad valorem tax because it's included in the rent. So when somebody else, when you move out, build your own building, that's an unintended positive to you because somebody else is paying that ad valorem tax and you're not paying it in that lease deal somewhere along the line. It has to be figured out. I don't know what that number is. But I think you mentioned Lemon Street, that's a government building, isn't it?
Yes,
So
sir,
that
it
has
is.
very little cost as far as rent, am I correct?
You are correct.
Very minimal.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't minimal, it'd be something much greater. However, we have
That is-
other buildings that we're renting, and I'm not against renting if you have to rent something on a short time basis. If everybody rented, there'd be no wealth gained by anyone. From the people who are trying to find a place to live now, who are desperate, and I appreciate every ounce of labor they're trying to do to move in. Yesterday, I had a call in my house from a relative looking to find a place because the rent went up twice in 6 months to something that they can't pay. So it's everywhere. It's just not one sector, it's in every sector. When you rent, you're at the mercy of everyone but yourself. They can do, the lease expires, they don't have to give you the same rent. If you have a lease, then they can say, I want another 30 or 40%. What are you going to do then? Where are you going to move to? How are you going to move? Where are you going to find a place to live? It's the same thing in business. In the hardware business, anybody's got a warehouse that's warehousing, what happens to them? It's the same thing. It's happening all over the United States of America, not only in Tampa. Maybe Tampa more so because now it's a place to be. It's got the highest hotel rates maybe in the country coming into people, not the rates in money, but the rates in occupancy. So Tampa has been found by people who didn't know how to spell the word Tampa. They thought it was Tampa, Kansas. By the way, there is a Tampa, Kansas. And Mr. Maniscalco got a shirt. But what I'm saying is, if you own your property, you control your destiny to a point. If you lease your property and you live in a lease, someone else controls your destiny to a bigger point. So I've always thought if you have ownership, you have some value at the end when it's paid for, much greater than what you bought it for. And you can see the marketplace, you go back in the 70s and the 80s, even 10 years ago, people bought something that I thought was out of line, and the one that was out of line was me. Because if they paid $300,000, now it's worth $500,000. And these are the individuals that understand the marketplace. I'm not a market player. I don't know that game. I don't know that business. But I can tell you, it's better to own than to lease. I have never leased a car. I have paid rent before, but I have never leased a car. I'd rather buy one. But anyway, that's just me. But thank you very much.
Councilman Goode.
I'm looking at my spreadsheet here. Andrew, when is the total completion of this project, of the 100th Street project? The total completion, what are we looking at?
I'm sorry, are you asking total completion in terms of dollars, or are you asking in terms of time frame?
I want to know the time frame or the total completion of this project on hand with all buildings. What is the total completion time?
So target date right now, total completion, we're looking end of October. We're looking to have main building complete the end of July of this year, with the fleet building being complete the end of September, and the facilities building end of October.
All right. Now, I just got an influx in cost of 3.7 because you advised that council asked for solar, and we asked for AVs, and the influx in the cost of price at 3.7 mil, correct?
That is correct.
All right, so now if I'm looking at cost increase, and we're talking about October, and we still having other buildings, I mean, what do we believe the cost is gonna be incurred then? Because my keen mind tells me that this is not gonna be the last time we ask for any money if you're coming on the 16th for $3.7 million. Correct?
Correct. That is a strong possibility. I will tell you, though, we fully anticipate, well, there's two things I want to tell you. Also included when we come before you on the 16th is going to be a credit of $1 million. And that credit back to us is because our facilities team has been able to secure the furnishings for that building at a much lower cost than what was included in the GMP, and no sales tax. So the correction or the reconciliation that we're going to be bringing before you on February 16th isn't only asking for more money, but it's also reflecting a bit of a credit. And then in terms of additional costs, we do expect to ask for some additional funding for AV equipment. And I'm going to be very honest with you. In the GMP, we really tried to be as modest and conservative as we could be, not to ask for any more than we really needed. But when we look at equipping, especially the community room that the community has asked for and that you all will use in times of emergency as a COOP site, you can conduct your council meetings there. We want to make sure we equip it with the appropriate AV equipment. And that wasn't completely included in the November 2021 GMP. Again, just keeping it conservative and modest. But if we're building that facility and we have that intended use long-term, then let's set us up for success from the beginning. But we also expect another credit. So what the next time that I come before you, and that will be towards the end of the project, I can't give you that number, but I can tell you we are working very, very, very jointly and aggressively to keep the costs down while making sure we're equipping ourselves right.
I guess maybe I was a little confused in our numbers, but I was thinking that the total price for everything was the total price. And I didn't know we had not included, or the solar or the AV was not included in the total price once we made that decision. But now we're coming back saying that that's not included. And then we're talking about later on down the line for the total completion of October projects, there could be more cost or increased costs for this project. So the public is already a little weary about the project, which we've already moved down that road. I'm selling the project. You know, I think it will be good for some aspects for East Tampa, for growth and development, for new businesses to pop up because we're gonna have a lot of people coming to the east side. But they're also gonna look at the money value. So I'm hoping that now we're talking about an additional 3.7, that this is not gonna really exceed another 3.7 or higher for the completion of this project, but it seems like it will. So we need to have some strong talks and conversations before that happens, because I can see this council, whatever future council, is going to have to put more money into this project.
Well, and you might recall when we came before you with the GMP, we specifically laid out, and I remember explaining the solar panel on the main building and on the trellis from the parking garage. And that was November 2021. And that was when we asked for your approval in the GMP for the cost of construction. And it was during that meeting that the ask was made for the fleet and facilities building. So there was no way that anyone could have thought that was included if that came up in that discussion. And we agreed to it and we're happy to it, but now here we are, you know, what that cost is. And so that's why that wasn't included initially, because it came out in that November 2021 meeting.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, Councilman.
Councilwoman
And I'd like
Burkhardt.
to say one more thing to Councilman Miranda's point. Thank you very much. I completely agree with what you're talking about owning, but another very, very positive component of this project is we are not making ourselves fit into an existing building. We are listening to the community members and what they wanted. We are listening to our employees and what they need to better service our customers. And we are now creating that building around those needs rather than us fitting into something that's already there. We are creating extra parking, which is something our contractors complain about consistently about the current construction services center, the inability to park. So that's another plus to having our building and designing it and building it ourselves.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
So thank you.
You mentioned getting $1 million credit back for furnishing. Does that mean that we're not taking any furnishings with us and we're buying brand-new furnishings for the entire building?
It does not mean that at all.
Okay.
We are
So-
definitely taking what we can, but in the Lemon
Okay.
Street example, and that's really the one that we're purchasing the majority for. What's there, honestly, is what the DOT left behind. They vacated that building many years ago because that building is being demolished. And sadly, that's what our city employees have been using there.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I
yeah.
just wanted the clarification that we aren't just, throwing everything out and starting over. So thank you, I appreciate that.
Councilman Miranda.
Absolutely not. When I tell you, Councilwoman Hurtak, we have been committed to being modest and conservative. We're doing that on all fronts. And that furnishing that I'm asking for, or that I'm mentioning that we're purchasing, also includes the break rooms. It also includes the furnishings for the community room that we don't currently have. So those are things that we need to buy. But where we're able to take furniture, we absolutely are.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Solar cost is borne by a lot of things. But what are the benefits? First of all, not only this country, but this world is killing itself by not paying attention to the environment. Solar is one small piece that will help not use as much oil or as much other heating equipment or whatever you want to call it, that is creating an enormous problem in health-wise, and not only in this country, but we're actually killing ourselves. So what does solar do? I can tell you because I put solar in my house. I'm saving about $110 a month on a month that you have very little due to the weather. It's a beautiful month and you don't have the air on or you don't have the heat on or whatever. On the winter months and the summer months, for my modest bill, I save about $140 to $150 a month. My bill has never been more than $34 a month. Well, because it's the heat. And I'm saying that's on the high side. On the low side, it's always been constant, $24 a month. So what that does is an expense, but it's not only an expense, it's an expense that at the end of the day, when it's paid for, it's in reverse. You're collecting 100% of that profit that you're not spending. So because you don't have the principal and the interest involved. So those are the things that are never figured in, but I can tell you that it makes a world of difference, and I see more and more houses all over the city, especially of all things, in West Tampa. Every time I drive around, I see at least one house with solar in every block. So somebody's catching on and somebody's trying to do the right thing. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, just quick statement. In business or in government public policy analysis, you have to look at alternatives. We talked about alternatives analysis a lot with Pure and whatever we're calling it now. But I think with any major capital project or any very expensive project, we have to look at alternatives. And the time to do that was a couple years ago. But I just want everybody to know the reason why I ask questions about how much it costs to rent versus buy is not making an argument of one versus the other. It's to try to get what the reasonable alternative would have been so we can make the business case. It was the same thing with the incinerator. I asked the question about how much would it be to send to the landfill, and then they came back with a 10-minute video on why putting in landfill didn't make sense. The idea was not to try to shift to put it in the landfill. The idea was to find out what are the alternative costs. And so in this case, if I don't know what the real numbers are, but let's say renting, and if you put an escalation clause in, if a renting model said we would have paid $5 million a year for 161,000 square feet. And by the way, you can get purpose-built investors, private investors will go in just like they do with post office, everybody else. But and they'll do long-term contracts. But if you created a long-term lease, and let's say it was $5 million a year, versus spending 7, 8, I don't know what it is with O&M, plus all the other costs, then what we can do is we can legitimately say to the public, we looked at alternatives, and buying is whatever it is, $3 million more a year, but here are the reasons why we think it's better. Or in the best case, we would save money. But I think that just to show that we're being thorough and transparent to the public, we just need to show them what we could have done and why we made the choice. That's my point. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Rogero,
Yes,
out of
sir.
all the departments that will now be at the Hannah Street building, how many of those departments actually own land? Or how much of those departments are on city-owned land?
I don't know, Ms. Colina or Ms. Duncan may know, I don't know off the top of my head, but we
The
can
fleet
certainly,
maintenance
we can
over
respond back.
in West Tampa, that's not city-owned land?
That is, Lemon Street, for example, we're renting that from another entity, even though it is governmental, so that's not our land. But so, facilities or real estate may have a map of where all these locations are, but I don't have that.
And Big Blue across the street,
That's ours.
that's ours.
Yes, sir.
Tampa Police is going out to Hannah Street? Nope.
No, sir.
Okay.
No,
I'm good.
no.
Thank you very much. I'm good now, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rogero.
Thank you.
And I would like to say one more thing too, to Councilman Carlson's point. Absolutely renting could have been an option. And we have considered, many things to get to this point. I don't want anyone to have the false impression that we didn't consider alternatives. We did. But remember too, following COVID, we saw a lot of things that were kind of out of our control, and we really wanted to control our destiny a little more, have our COOP site, and just set us up for consistent locations, moving to one site and just serving our customers the best for the long term. So we've considered it all, and we do believe that we do believe this is the best option.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Ms.
All right.
Baird.
Good morning, City Council. Brad Baird, Deputy Administrator of Infrastructure. If I could get the pipe slide, thank you very much. Excited to talk to you this morning about the PIPES program. It's the largest infrastructure program in Tampa's history. As you recall, it was passed in September of 2019 for $2.9 billion. I want to point out that the business case that we did, in that prior year included 4 master plans with extensive review of the data of the existing systems for both treatment plants, all the pumping stations in each department, and the collection system, wastewater collection system, and then the water distribution system. So again, it was 4 separate master plans to get us to the point to where we had a priority list of projects and alternatives to present to you that September. We are 3.5 years into this program, which is approximately 17% of that 20 years. However, we have so far we've had 115 projects under the PIPES program in various stages of design, construction, or even many we've closed out. We've completed them. And that totals $1.2 billion, or 41% of the $2.9 billion. So we're, time-wise, we're 17% in. Dollar-wise, we're over 40% in. So I'll stop there unless you want me to go through each of the 115 projects. I'm kidding. But we'll be happy to answer questions on any concerns you have on the program or any of the individual projects.
Any comments or questions? Councilman Carlson.
Just quickly, and you probably don't remember the numbers off the top of your head, but you were talking about the business case. The business case that was presented at the time was the cost that to ad hoc repairs, that if a pipe bursts, you have to send an emergency team in, you have to pay more for that, and you have to repair. And so as you did the timeline, I don't have the whole chart in my head, but as you did the timeline, it was a lot more expensive to repair on an ad hoc basis than it was to go ahead and preemptively do this. And so in that case, as I remember, there was a very strong alternative case that it was a lot cheaper for the public if we did it proactively, correct?
That is correct, Councilman. Thank you for bringing that up, because at the time, if you recall, we gave an example of the wastewater department. It was costing us $20 million a year just for the cave-in repairs, right? Well, that cost has gone up in the last 3 years, but same with water line breaks. If you're reactive, the costs are much greater than if you can be proactive. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Good morning, Council. Sia Wynn, Administrator of Neighborhood and Community Affairs. And under the projects today, Sharisha is Director of Parks and Recreation. We have a number of them, so we're going to tag team. The first one we're going to present before you is the East Tampa Recreation Center. As I presented to you recently, we have issued the notice to proceed for this project. The reason why this project was needed, it was essential, is that the building in and of itself was over 30 years old. And not only that, when I first came on board, we received a number of complaints from the community members about rats in the buildings and how the building had not been renovated. So in order for us to make those repairs, we committed to doing a complete replacement of the recreation center as well as an addition to the building in order to meet the needs of the community. So as I mentioned, a notice to proceed was awarded to Skanska in November of this past year. They are in the process of gathering data and doing site work and preparations for the project. We expect that to be completed this month, by the end of this month, beginning of next month. And then we will start with the public engagements. The first public engagement is scheduled for the 15th of February, and then we'll have another one on February 18th as well. Councilman Goose, I know it was your concern that we would not have 9 months of public engagement, and we're not going to do that. We have decreased that time so that we can get the input and the information that we need so that we can funnel that to the design team as they're designing the building. We expect a 30% design reveal in March. As we get to those design phases, we will communicate that out to you and to the public. And after we get the complete input for the design, we expect that to be completed this year, before the end of this year. I want to set and manage expectations that this is a huge project. So when we went before the community before, we communicated that this project, because it's going to be done properly, will take about 2 years into completion. Do you have anything, Sharisha?
Sharisha Hills, Director of Parks and Recreation. Like Osea said, we're going through the period that we're getting input from the community is going to be a short period, and as she said, is really to manage expectations, as we've heard a lot of numerous things that want to be in this park, but to manage what actually could be in this park. And as she said before, this campus, we had issues with it. We've expanded it, so it's going from 3 acres to 10 acres.
vacating 2 roads to make it very safe, but also make it a multi-generational facility that will last throughout the year. So we're not just thinking for this year, next year, but what does it look like for the entire community of East Tampa to have a multi-generational facilities with certain aspects that are truly age-specific, whether it's a senior center or for our youth or for our teens. And that is how this component is going to be built.
Councilman Goode.
Well, thank you, ladies, for the presentation. You know, again, this design, this whole premise was supposed to be about Al Barnes, but we had a consensus with the mayor, and we engaged and made it one big project, which I'm happy for that. I'm glad that we knocked this community engagement down, because we don't need a year of community engagement for this project. We know our needs. You know, I just want to make sure that all those communities are at the table. I would like to know, where are these public meetings going to be held at?
We have to give the consultants, some of them are going to be at our rec centers, but some of them also looking at, I believe, local high schools or auditoriums that are in that community.
So I see a meeting on the 15th or on the 18th, so I just want to make sure, you know, that the meetings are at a neutral place.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I don't want ownership of one place to another. I want to make that clear, because I want to make sure everyone's involved in the process and we move down the road. I know 2 years is a while, but like I said, the Hannah project is moving, and there's no need that this project can't move as fast as the Hannah project's moving. So I want to put that out there now. There's no need that this project has to be delayed when Hannah's moving. And Hannah's going to be done in October for Mr. Beard. He just told me and Ms. Kalina the 23rd, in October of 23 this year. So I just want to make sure that we ain't going to be kicking this can down the road. We need it built. We built it at one time, not bits and pieces. So the community be coming back saying, well, how come that ain't ready yet? If it's going to be built, let's build it. No different than the Hannah project. I think most council members would agree to that, because they're asking every day about that. Hannah's moving, why are we not moving yet? And I keep telling people, they're in the design build phase, they're gonna have your meetings, and then hopefully we'll have this design put out so that people can see when we're gonna get started with some dirt being lifted. So this is a big project for East Tampa. Everyone's excited about this. You know, again, they weren't thrilled about Hannah, but they've come on board about Hannah because they see that some things could be prosperous in the city for East Tampa, but they also want what they want as well, because it's not, Hannah was totally what they wanted. This is what they want. So I just want to make sure we get it built. And again, have not heard anything about the renaming. We need to get that off the table. Again, I don't know if council members know that community was never called Fair Oaks. The park was called Fair Oaks. Number 2, Fair Oaks was a wooded area with oak trees. And then some Mr. Gambrell, who we gave accommodation to, him and a few others said there was not equity in the city for kids for football and that nature and other activities. And the oak trees were knocked down, and they put the name Fair in front of Oaks. And that's how Fair Oaks was developed. Again, Mr. Gambrell was a gentleman who was the manager in the Parks and Rec Department. Most of our African-American employees were hired by Mr. Gambrell. He handled most of the issues on the east side. And that's why I had asked for that to be done. And then we come to Miss Betty Bell, who's the catalyst of the senior center. So there are a lot of people who want some names done, but again, the project is the East Tampa Regional Center, and hopefully Mr. Gambrell's name could be somewhere down the line. Maybe Miss Bell could be on the senior center. I even got a call from Miss the Whites in reference to Bernadine called me. And I told her maybe that could be down the line, but right now we've got probably 2 names already to put on things over at that park possibly. And but we were grateful for her to give me a call. But the community, I've met at several community meetings. I met with the Jazzy seniors. I have told them the same thing in reference to Mr. Gambrell and Miss Bell. I've told the little community group at Fair Oaks, I've told them the same thing. The councilman has told the community what needs to be done, how we can change the stigma, how we can bring people together, with togetherness for all those parks, all those different areas, and the amenities that will come to them. So I'll take the brunt on any hits, but I mean, I've already said that Mr. Gambrell needs to be a part of that park. He was the catalyst of that area over there, and I stand firm on that. I know some people are talking about at some Fair Oaks. I don't know where that came from, but again, I expressed my concerns, and I'm doing it publicly right now. I am not in favor of that. I'm in favor of the East Tampa Regional. I'm in favor of Mr. Gambrell being on there. And again, I made that clear to all those neighborhoods, and they know where I stand on that. And they have been embraced me with that, saying, you're right, Artis did what he needed to do here for our people in this community. And I know there are a group over there that are getting together to get a community association over there. I was at that meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I told them my sentiments then. Don't care about the building of when it's re-erected, have fair on the building. I got no problem with that. No issue with that. But I do take issue that we don't give homage to a man who was the catalyst of that facility and of that community. So I just want to make sure that the administration hears me, Ms. Hills and Ms. Sophia Wynn. I've been strongly about that, and I've told Ms. McGregor as well what I'm expecting, what I'm hoping to accomplish for that community over there, and it's the togetherness for all. So I thank you for your work. I'm going to ask for periodical updates because they're hungry and they're starving. They're ready. They keep asking me all the time. So I'm glad we were able to shed a little light today. Thank you for the presentation.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, a few different things. Number one, we have complaints coming from all over the city. I have complaints in my district constantly about benches falling apart, about lack of painting and other kinds of things in parks facilities. And somebody might be watching this and say, why is this park being built like this? And I just want to say, as a representative not of this district, as I've gone around to parks in the city, this was, if not the worst, one of the worst that I had seen. The community demanded that we do something about it, and we went out there, city council, I think sitting as a CRA board, and a large number of people showed up from the community, and what they pointed out is there had not been equal or equitable investment over the years, where other parks have at least basic amenities. This park and the other parks surrounding it did not have basic amenities. That's when Councilmember Goods was talking about Al Barnes and others, closed park. In the years just prior to us coming on board, there were a couple proposals to spend like $375,000 just to renovate it. It had not been even painted or touched up in a long, long time, and I don't think significantly renovated in decades. When we did those proposals to renovate were rejected before our time. When we went to the public meeting, the community complained that it was a fire trap. They complained it didn't have basic amenities that other parks have, and they said there were rats in the ceiling. I think the city only caught one in the end, but they were complaining that rat hairs were falling down, and kids and others didn't want to go there. And that was not a condition we want in a city that wants to be world class. So we all agreed that there should be some kind of investment. I think at the time we were looking at least I was thinking ballpark like $4 or $5 million. The mayor came back with an idea to combine budgets from several parks, and the number I remembered at the time was around 14 million. But I look at this budget here, and now it's 41 million. Can you just tell us if I remember incorrectly, I apologize, but can you just tell us kind of the progression of the budget, and then I have one more question after that.
So our bid was put out there for that, and the progression went with, we expanded the footprint. So when we looked at it initially, it was 3 acres. Now we're looking at 10 acres. We purchased some property to expand it, one being the Penny Saver. We've closed streets. So basically the cost can go with the expansion from 3 to 10 acres, and including, like Councilman Goose said, making it inclusive of everyone in that community we're taking into account, which is why we have the public input on what needs to be in this 10-acre campus. And
can you tell us where that 41 million is coming from and over how many years? And I'll ask you another question while he's standing up. You're working on a citywide objective priority plan for parks. And so I think all the constituents who've been asking us, why is my park not being renovated? Why can't we do certain things in our parks? We've been saying that plan is coming, and it'll have an objective analysis to say, this one hasn't been renovated in 10 years and this hasn't been renovated in 20 years. So we'll be able to look at it regardless of politics and just figure out how to prioritize. When is that priority list coming?
I'll touch on that. So we have a draft that's ready now, it will be coming back to you for discussion and also out to the community. Because again, we want the community input. We didn't want to get their input and then just publish something and say, here it is. So we want to have the meetings to go back out there, we being the consultant, to tell them their findings. And yes, they took all 191 parks, including our recreation centers, and it broke them down in priority lists, and then it listed them out over the next 15 to 20 years. And it tells you in the first few years, what is the priority, where are those high needs at? And you're right, it takes into account what hasn't been done, what needs to be done, and what that priority list is, with costs associated and escalation costs.
When do you
also
think we
as well.
might get it?
I believe in the next 2 months. So the next thing is to meet with Dennis's office to look at those numbers, and then it will come back to you and to the community before they take the draft off and you have a final document.
Yeah, that'll be very helpful. Like on roads, people ask and we say it's a once in 70 years or whatever budget, and they get very upset, understandably, if their roads are falling apart. In parks, I'm hopeful that that we can move it faster, knowing the limitation of budget. Sorry, Mr. Rajero, you were going to talk about the budget. What was so once the bigger footprint was decided, was it a much smaller budget and then it's increased since then?
Yes, initially, as Ms. Hill said, we, I think it was like $18 million, but not only has the scope expanded, but the footprint expanded. What we intend to offer at this park has expanded. Fortunately, this was all decided prior to going out for debt service last year, and you see that on the sheet there for just over $36 million. So fortunately, we had coalesced, we'd made a final decision, and that was the debt service that was issued under non-ad valorem bonds last year. You see a little bit above that in 2021, we also issued an initial debt service. I believe that was for design to get the project started, but the overwhelming amount of money for this project is debt service.
And how is that paid? So correct me if I'm wrong, if I remember correctly, the parks budget's like $5 million a year. Does that mean now it'll be $4 million because we're spending $1 million a year to pay this debt service, or how does it work?
No, we'll pay this out of our debt service fund. I mean, it originates, as you see here, non-ad valorem, so it's general fund, but not property taxes, and then we'll simply pay that for our fund for the next 30 years.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you very much. Question, I seem to recall this had an all abilities park section to it, like for people with disabilities, or?
The playground itself, yes.
That's
so
great.
Everything we're putting in there, ensuring that it's all inclusive.
That's
for
great.
Anybody.
I remember hearing that. We, of course, had the New Tampa groundbreaking yes. A couple weeks ago. I don't know if, I don't think anyone from council was there, but it was a really, really great event, and we got to see more of those throughout the city of Tampa, and it's great to see that for East Tampa. We have one in McFarland Park that started as private, and now I know the city does a lot with that, and of course New Tampa and East Tampa, and that's really, really important, so I'd love to see them. And I also motioned a couple months ago to have the CRA look throughout CRA areas for special needs parks as well, so that's great to see. So that's a great thing. I remember our first day on city council, Councilman Goods, I think I don't know, something I was talking about with special needs, and Councilman Goods mentioned that, so I'm just glad to see that happen, so yes. Thank you.
Deputy Administrator Elise Drumgo and I will be back in a couple weeks to talk about the CRA and the funding with ADA accessibility for parks. So.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you. I just want to touch on a little bit more about what Councilman Carlson was saying about the master plan, because I have got another email just this week saying, hey, this was supposed to be 6 months ago, and then that was followed on by an email that was sent 6 months prior to that. So when we're doing this, I know you're going to come back, but just a quick little detail or update. What types of public outreach are you planning to do? Just brief, doesn't have to be. And a time frame for that. If you're coming back in front of us in March, when can people expect to see the plan and be able to talk to you about it?
I believe in the end of February, beginning of March is when they will have the outreach. I need to see if it's in person. A lot of this was delayed because of COVID, so we did a lot of virtual, but I can get that information on the exact dates. But yeah, the outreach will be coming very soon in the next month and a half. They will see the information, they will see the PowerPoint slides. The entire document itself, the last time I saw it, was over 300 pages. So that is where the time went in, because they took a lot of detail into visiting every single park, walking that park and looking at it to make accurate analysis for future improvements.
Great, and I would highly recommend to have at least half of those in person. I just would.
Me too. I'm not a virtual
Yeah,
person,
yeah.
but I got you.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you.
Good on East Tampa? All right.
Yes, let's go on to
Next
Vila
one up,
Brothers.
Vila Brothers. We've come before talking about Vila Brothers. We are under construction now. You can see our business case, the improvements made to Tampa's parks are an investment in the quality of life of our citizens and sustainability of our environment and the resiliency of the community. And adding these improvements, adding the recreational site improvements to any otherwise minimized improvement park site. Improvements are based on the input from the surrounding community and the Vila family. So far, I can give you an update. I don't know if you guys have been by there, but basketball court, pickleball court, and when I say heavily used, that pickleball court is used all the time. We have our fitness equipment that is in there right now. Some of the other amenities, Councilman Carlson, I know he had mentioned, talk about the amenities that are there. 4 shelters, 2 dog parks, a walking trail with lights, a new playground, open green space area, and again, the pickleball, basketball courts. ADA accessibility, that was one of the things that we heard a lot for that community. We have surrounding parking that it will be there. And so those are a few of the amenities that are there and the benefits, really talking with the community and getting feedback. I mean, even having one-on-ones with Ms. Vila, Martha Vila, at our house to have lunch with CNI and our landscape architect went over there just to get some ideas and get information and honoring the family and the 7 brothers at this particular park.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much for that update. I was at Mrs. Vila's house earlier this week, and I don't want to disappoint her. I know we are going to be completing this, and I know it's been a long time, but I'm glad that I drive by every day, and I see the improvements. But again, thank you, because it's been a long time coming, and we appreciate it, and I know that you're on top of it. And we've communicated with you many, many times. So thank you.
No problem.
Councilman Carlson.
So about, years go by so fast, like 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, the neighborhood worked with the city on a big master plan. And then it's before you were director, I know. But the city worked on a big master plan for this park with the neighborhood. And then, and I think if I remember correctly, it was like $2.5 million. And at the end of it, the city turned to them and said, okay, where are you going to get the money? And they said, we thought you were going to pay for it. And so that was like the beginning of this path, as I remember it. But do you happen to have that original plan? And do you know, my question really is, how much of the original plan have we implemented? Obviously, pickleball wasn't on there because it's become something popular now, but do you have any idea of their original vision, how much we're going to be implementing?
I would need to go back and look at it. I believe a lot of it is in there, but like you said, as the times has changed with pickleball and stuff. But let me go back. I don't want to answer because that's before me and probably before I was in with the city.
I'm sure Sandy will be calling us as soon as the meeting's over.
I've heard about it. I think it's on a hand-drawn somewhere, but I would have to look and find out.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Moran.
Like Mr. Maniscalco, I also met not with Ms. Vila, but with some of the neighbors. And they're really joyful. It's finally coming to an end. They've been postponed and postponed and postponed. And some of it was, if I remember, you had troubles in the beginning with the restrooms or something like that coming in time. But I'm not formulating excuses, but to try to answer some of the questions in the advance of cost, there's been a lot of things that were added from the original plan. The original plan was very narrow, and now it's much greater, and it's more amenities for the neighbors, and I'm happy that they're going to get what they deserve, a good park, beautiful park, where they can be proud of. This neighborhood does a lot of walking and a lot of unities, little gatherings among themselves, and it's like having one big house and one big neighborhood, and it's wonderful to see that come back to Tampa.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next one up, Forest Hills. Forest Hills actually is under construction right now as well. It's a joint project with Stormwater. So the improvements there, the existing stormwater recreation facilities required safety and operational improvements. The the need presented an opportunity to engage with the community to make desired and comprehensive improvements to the park and expand the access throughout the park. I'll go over a little bit about the actual layout of it. So Stormwater is doing their portion, followed by the improvements, which will have basketball courts, tennis courts, pickleball courts, and a multi-purpose field, a walking trail with fitness equipment around the walking trail. This project, like I said, is underway and its anticipated completion is August of this year.
Councilman Brown.
I can just go back in history and remember the last time this had any amount of money put into it was under the Greco administration when the flooding was horrific. I know it's bad sometimes, but it was horrific. And we did something about it, and we did the center there, and things happened. In fact, there's a plaque on the wall naming all 6 council members. Notice I said 6. They forgot the chairman, and the chairman doesn't want his name put on it that way, called the unknown soldier.
Was that you?
No, I was the chairman. But I'm happy about that.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you.
All right. Next one up, Gandy Park South and Pelonis improvements. These were the parks that actually were closed when the Selman Expressway used it as a staging area, so they complete the top level. We are now ready to proceed with the project here. So we have 2 parcels that are here, one on the north side of Gandy, one on the south side of Gandy. And what we're looking to do is make a connection with both of them, a safe connection to both parks and connecting the 2 of them that are there. Some of the improvements you can see on your map include kayak and canoe launch, multiple shelters for picnics, open green space area, fishing pier, and a walking area, amongst other amenities. But our goal is to, well, Councilman Carlson's not here, but down in his district, touching down there, listening to the community. So community engagement has already been done. We have a contractor that has been selected, and then you will now see discussions start to come back and forth, and parks improvements start to go.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Can you just advance the slides so the public
Oh,
can
I'm sorry.
see the map of what?
Yes, ma'am. There we go.
Thanks.
There's one more. I'm sorry.
Any other comments or questions? No, I'm hoping there's a fishing pier there. That's prime fishing.
That is.
Caught plenty of snook and red trout in there. Councilwoman Hurtak.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just thinking it looks like there's 2.
If you want to ask the question, I will. Are the top and bottom part on the slide, are they connecting?
The 2 parks?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
That is
you.
our goal.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Shall we go on to veterans?
We'll bring it on home. Here we go.
Hosea Wynn, Administrative Neighborhood and Community Affairs. Council, at your request, you asked us to consider putting a Veterans Memorial in each council district. So this is the first of those memorials at Jim Walter Park. We are currently in the design and permitting of the memorial. We have allocated $300,000 for this memorial. With this park, in following years, we will have allocated $600,000 to address the memorials in the other parks.
Councilman Vieira, I believe that you were actually.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And it's funny because I'll be honest, I actually forgot I made that motion. I checked it up and I did it, and I don't mean this, by the way, in terms of, oh my gosh, it's taking you so long. Things take time, and I'm very understanding of that. I think we all are. But back in December of 2020, and this is great. I mean, especially to see a memorial for African-American veterans, many of whom served during Jim Crow. I mean, a lot of people don't know that, Robert Saunders, who took over the NAACP after the murder of Harry T. and Harriet Moore, was a World War II veteran here in Tampa. And a lot of folks, Delano Stewart served in uniform Air Force, if I recall, he did during, I think, just after the Korean War era, if I recall. But yeah, no, this is wonderful. So what I'll do is I'll make a motion, and I'm thrilled to see this one over at Jim Walters. I think that's great. Is that your district? Yeah. Great. That's wonderful. I'm thrilled to see that. So I'll maybe have this done like on a yearly basis so that we can see when the next one's going to go. But that's great. So thank you guys. Well done. Thank you.
Councilman Maniscalco.
I just want to give a shout out to Reggie Bolton, who we met for a long time for something like this specifically, because he's in the Carver City Lincoln Gardens neighborhood. And when we sat down together with Parks and Rec and we first saw this initial design, we were all blown away. He was very, very happy. And this is going to be wonderful in this historic neighborhood in Tampa to honor all the veterans going back to World War II and moving forward. This is great. So I'm glad to see this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you both.
All right, that ends our presentation. We're good.
Thank you, council members, for your time this morning. Our intention, unless we hear otherwise, is to, starting in May, have a biannual report for you. We can craft that, certainly with the format that we talked about today, we can craft that within the time frame that you would like this to occur going forward. But we're real excited about starting to bring this to you, if not through presentation, through a written report, so you can have a handy reference. I would like to offer that we'd like to give this biannual report a chance to see if it satisfies what you believe is the need for more transparency, engagement, information, and so forth. And if we could give that a chance to see whether or not a request for public hearings for a certain dollar amount would still be something that's needed, or if this process could be a good substitute for that in terms of what you're interested in doing. So.
Thank you. Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, thank you. This is exactly the kind of detail and transparency. I appreciate everybody taking the time to go through all this, for us, but also for the public. So this is exactly the kind of thing I think we should be doing. Could I ask Mr. O'Hara a question real fast? Folks will always ask us, well, why can't we do my park, or why can't we do my road? And wherever you live and wherever you go, that area is the most important in the city. So I just want to ask you, how do you figure out the budget for capital projects each year? Is it based on revenue or retiring debt or just refinancing? How do you figure out what that number is? And do you know what the additional incremental number will be for next year?
We don't. I'll answer the last question first. We don't know what the incremental number will be for next year yet, but we're already working it. Of course, we'll come to council with that. In answer to your first questions, it's all of those things. We take community input, whether it's from the mayor, whether it's from the team, whether it's from city council, and we look forward for that 5 years. What do we think the various revenue sources are going to be? And of course, we think we do a very good job, but the further you go out, the less accurate it's going to be, which is another reason city council reviews it every single year, have priorities changed, for instance, over the year, because we've got another 5 years coming up. Have the revenue issues changed for good or for worse over the past year? Again, when we adopted this capital improvements program, it's already been a half year. And in another half year, we'll be doing it again. So it really is a process. But we look at all those things. It really is dynamic. You've got to plant the dart someplace, but it really is dynamic, just like the operating budget.
And just one last comment. Thank you. And just one last comment for Ms. Duncan. Besides the public engagement on each project, I hope that the prioritization of these is a discussion between City Council and the Mayor's office and your department, but also I think we need to go to the public specifically for prioritization of the overall ideas and budget. And we know that there's a mobility plan underway. There's a parks plan underway that will, they're both supposed to have objective prioritization. And so if we have objective prioritization, then we can go back to the public and say, yeah, your road needs to be done, but the other road is 70 years old and yours is 40 years old, and so we got to do the 70-year-old one first. But it would help to get the buckets of priority from the public, not just from a poll, but from actually having conversations, and then also help them look at things. And I think part of that is, there's some tabletop discussions that you can do with people about, if you had $100, how would you spend it? Kind of like the discussion we had on the streetcar versus repairing roads a little while ago. But the same thing here with parks and the other priorities, just to give some context to not only what buckets are priority, what projects are priority under those buckets, but then how much people would want to spend on them. I think that would be a good parallel public engagement process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Yes, it is a little bit of art and science. Much of our prioritization is based on data and needs. For example, for mobility, we have our high injury network where we've identified the high injury locations. So we blend that data with the equity of distributing the love everywhere, as we say, giving projects throughout the whole city, as well as what the public's interests and demands are. So it's a little bit science, a little bit art in terms of making sure it's appropriate for what the requests are, for what the needs are, and for what the data shows, and then with the money on top of that to further challenge us on how we come up with our plans. But we've done this for many years, and we want to keep getting better, and that's why all this input that we're getting today is very valuable, because we can keep ebbing and flowing and adjusting and doing better each time.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if I could amend my response to Councilman Carlson. Seeing Ms. Pointer here reminded me, let's not forget about the Council Citizens Budget Advisory Committee. Again, we'll also intake. They're meeting now. They'll continue to meet for the next few months. And we'll take input about not only prioritizations, but community preferences from them also. Thank you.
Is there anyone in chambers who would like to speak to agenda number 8?
Good morning, Council. Stephanie Pointer. Well, first of all, let's go back to number 2 and talk about impulse buying. I don't impulse buy. Do y'all impulse buy? I don't go buy houses and I don't go buy cars with no thought process before it, no planning before it. And when stuff comes before City Council, only one time to spend $20+ million, which I didn't hear a whole lot of conversation about for the last hour's worth of testimony. I think City Council should think about it in between the first and second hearing. I think that totally makes sense. Like I said, and when you do make impulse purchases, such as Hannah Street, you end up with less than a year down the road, we've got a 13% increase on that project after we made an impulse purchase. I would like to point out that this PowerPoint that was presented today is not in Sire. Otherwise, you'd see Sandy Sanchez here. But the City Council agenda comes out on the Friday before. So we have 6 days to prepare for whatever's going to be on the agenda. During that 6 days, if the documents are not in Sire, then the city, the public, the people who pay the taxes that they're spending their money, do not have the opportunity to review this and think about it and talk about it and make recommendations to their city council. I had no idea that this presentation was coming today, because had I would have reviewed it and done a little bit better job. But impulse buys always cost you in the long run, via interest, via whatever source. I would also like to point out that we talked about Paloma Park in South Tampa. Guess what? The city isn't paying for that. Thea paid for it. That was a gift from Thea to offset the inconvenience of the Gandy flyover. So let's not act like that just came out of somewhere and somebody was giving a gift to SOG. I'd also like to point out that Ms. Duncan said that they are in neighborhood meetings every day of the week. I really, really struggle to agree with that. I really struggle to see where we have city staff sitting in a neighborhood meeting. And I think all of you up there who are running for office, who are going to neighborhood meetings, can see that yourselves. So if you're going to neighborhood meetings before these things happen, and I contacted Tim Keyports and Carol Ann Bennett, who I know were at the Hannah Street meetings, to see if they happened before or after it got passed at city council, and neither one of them could remember, but they're gonna look. So the bottom line is that if we gotta do what we say we're gonna do, and it shouldn't just be pushing it out. It needs to be taking it back in from the citizens as well. We can't play this game anymore.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good morning, Keela McCaskill. This report, this PowerPoint, couldn't be the replacement of it coming between first and second readings. One, what happened at Hannah Street was just absolute embarrassment, pure insult should be to you all as well as to citizens, which is why I'm asking that you support the two. I feel like it needs to come before you all twice and definitely have the opportunity to have public input, because as a citizen, and I've sat through at least the process whereby for not Hannah Street, but for Fair Oaks or that project, I saw one of the awarded vendor, Skanska, their piece of community engagement, bringing it before them. Their idea of that was to go to one of the members of Jazzy Seniors and ask 3 questions, not realizing the Jazzy Senior is in the room, and they didn't even know who she was. You know why? Because they didn't contact Jazzy Seniors. They went to a member of. Their idea of community engagement and the actual community is 2 different things. So actually advertising the information ahead of time gives the public the opportunity to come here in between the two, in addition to whatever they do as their process of community engagement. I also like to point out that one of them said that the next public notice or engagement will be February 15th, February 18th, and then a few minutes ago, they said it'll be at the end of the month. What I'm pointing out is there's been no flyer. There's been not one piece of literature to prepare the people to know that there's going to be a meeting about this project in your community. There's a disconnect. In one meeting, one opportunity coming before you in a oops, $100 million budget, or oops, $100 million rubber stamp is not acceptable. The public deserves better than that. We need to, and I ask you to sign off on that today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shelby.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, just a reminder, because I've heard the speakers talk about first and second reading, and I just want to remind the public, and certainly council knows this, that what you have with regard to contracts come to you in the form of a resolution. And they normally appear on the consent docket. And there is a policy of city council that the administration abides by, that items over, I believe it's $3 million, comes to you as a staff report, so there's some sort of a presentation attached to it. But it is something that takes no reading, frankly, moving the resolution one time before it takes effect, and once it's, let's say, a contract, and council approves it, and the recipient is notified of council's decision, it's really out of council's hands by that point. There is no motion to reconsider a contract once you passed it by resolution, because there's no opportunity. So I just wanted to make that clear for council, certainly, and the public should be aware that when you talk about where it says 2 or more discussions, this is not an ordinance that requires 2 public hearings under Florida law. Or excuse me, 2 readings and 1 public hearing.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, and the purpose of number 8 is to ask for a process by which we would have 2 public hearings on contracts over $20 million. So and one example was Hannah Avenue. We passed it. We were all trying to be good partners with the mayor, and this is one of her legacy projects, so we approved it. And then a week or 2 later, somebody came to public comment and told us it had not been put out for bid. So then we tried to put it on pause or cancel it, and we were told by legal we couldn't. And as you just said, it was too late by then. And that's just one example, but the idea here is that we would give 2 chances for the public to hear something. We'd put a couple weeks in between them, and it would give us more time to look at it. It would give us more time to hear public input, and then we would approve it. It's really a safeguard. It's what we do on land use issues, and we're not required by any law to do it. I suggest we do this for transparency and to make sure that we have a second chance. It could be that The second time, nobody will discuss it, nothing will be discussed, it'll just be a quick vote. But at least we'll give it 2 different chances. And it's only, my proposal is only above 20 million, which is not that many contracts. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I would second that motion.
Can we hold off and make that at the end of the meeting?
Is staff reporting on this? Or?
I don't think they're reporting. I just wanted to clarify one thing. The land use hearings you have are rezonings, and they're done by ordinance, and they are governed by Florida law, and you do have to have 2 public hearings on those items. So that's mandated by Florida law. So I just wanted to clarify that for you.
Yeah, that's why I said that unlike land use issue, we're not mandated by law to review, hear contract reviews twice. And that's why, even though Florida law does not require it, I think we should put in an ordinance that says that we will hear them twice, just to make sure that we hear from the public fully.
Council members, it's 12 o'clock now. Do we want to go to lunch now, or do we want to have a hard stop at 12:30?
I would say we go to lunch now and then come back at an earlier hour and then go to the, no?
Lunch until 1:30? 1:30. We are recessed until 1:30.